Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today. And we have a special guest with the one and only Neil Cook, who is a freelance paranormal psychic medium working with GSI Paranormal Family, also Sky Showcase, Really TV, host of Britain, as well as Brooks Paranormal, Project Paranormal, and is also a host on local radio. So thank you, Neil, for doing this interview.
Yes, good evening, Citizen. It's great to be here. I was very excited when you asked me to do this. As Bob Hoskins once said, it's very good to talk, and he's that opportunity now.
So Neil, could you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and what you do and about your channel or platform, please, if you could?
Yes, I'm Neil Cook, as you're aware. I'm born and bred from the northeast of England, which is in Middlesbrough. I currently live in North Yorkshire with my wife and hedgehog and pet dog. For some years now, I've been public with my mediumship, doing the venues, the podiums, the stage shows and things like that. You can find me anywhere on Facebook under the section Neil Cook Spirit Medium, as well as my YouTube channel with a few playlists on cooking and other things. And we also have the GS Paranormal channel, and we're close to 14,000 people, I think, following us now. We haven't done much because of the pandemic, but it's there, and we're always posting something to entertain you guys.
Okay, so Neil, how did you discover your abilities?
I was born into a family of spiritualism. My mum was a very sensitive person, and although she didn't practice the level of mediumship which I now practice, she was the classic tea leaf clairvoyant medium, where she would see the foreseeable future as well as tell you what's happening around each other as well. I believe my gran was a medium as well, and it was something which was going to be passed down to one of the three siblings, and I was fortunate to be the gifted one.
So they're very lucky in that case.
Well, yes, it could have been any one of the four children, and it just so happened to be me. I guess that section of my brain didn't fill up with clutter, and I learned to work with what was there. And with the guidance of my parents, or my mum mainly, she helped me develop the lower levels of mediumship, and then everything else just kind of, I was one of them fortunate ones. I think a classic example is Mia Dolan. She went to bed one day as a normal person and woke up the next feeling very sensitive to the spiritual and paranormal world around her.
Yep. So Neil, so when you first started out, were you embarrassed to tell people what you did? And for any of viewers that's just joining or listening, what advice would you give them about opening up about their ability?
Well, there was a Disney film made around 15 years ago, and it was called Paranorman. It was a fat little ginger kid, and he was the sensitive kid at school, and he didn't dare tell anyone about his sensitivity. Well, I was that same fat ginger kid at school myself, but obviously 40 years ahead of the film. And although I did say certain things and my nickname was Spooky Kooky, it wasn't something which I kind of started working with. I think it was the birth of my daughter which made me become a man, that I opened up more and then start practicing my ability to work and develop with this skill.
Okay. And did you have any understanding or support or family for friends as well? I know you mentioned there about your mum there.
Yes, my mum was a good guide, not only here on the earth plane, but she is now in the spirit world, bless her. And I'm still getting the thick ear off my dad, even though he too is still in the spirit world. I think I was pointed in all the right directions I possibly could, but as my mum always said, your destiny's set in stone. You'll always get to the same junction or crossroads or the dead end, no matter who influences you, because you're going to take that route no matter what.
Exactly. Now, I think you've probably never been asked this question before, but here goes. So what advice would you give your younger self?
I would, if you believe that you have if you're sensitive to spirit, then I genuinely believe the more you open yourself up to spirit, the more likely you will hear, see, smell, and the other senses as well. And a classic example of that is we were hosting a paranormal event with a guy who actually started speaking about stuff which he didn't know where it come from, but it was very much appropriate for the haunted location I was talking about. And I'd tuned into his energy and realised he had a little bit more to give than what he thought he did. And then what I started to do was work with him and guide him like my mother did with me. And this guy has now gone on to do podium work. He's only working at the level he feels comfortable at, but he does a lot with the tarot cards and things like that. And no doubt he should be listening tonight, Michael McIver. But it's unless we open ourselves up, and a classic example of this, Sidson, is people say, why do I not ever see or hear anything from my loved ones in spirit? Well, I always say, are you actually listening for their messages? They'll tell me no. I'll say, are you actually looking for their messages? What are you doing yourself to make yourself more spiritually aware to actually pick up on them? Because our brains are very cluttered and full of mortgage payments, car payments, and everything else in our working life that we forget to give that little piece of our mind that little quiet time and open itself back up. Because we had it when we were children. We all had them imaginary friends, but we allow that to close off inadvertently, and then we become who we are when we're not sensitive.
Exactly. I do agree on exactly what you're saying there. Once we get older, we basically lose everything, and we don't. Some of us, even though do have abilities, but we don't meditate as much to really open it up.
Yeah, meditation is a crucial thing, but I would never advise me personally anything more than the length of a very good song or anything more than 10 minutes, because I'll guarantee that the second you find that quiet time and lay down or sit in your favourite chair and put your favourite track on, the phone will ring, there'll be a car horn tooting outside or a dog barking, which is just going to make you snap out of it straight away. So very small increments of meditation. 4 minutes, excellent. 10 minutes, good. And just let yourself open up.
Would you recommend a song to meditate on, or do you have maybe one on your channel that you can meditate to?
There's an album Tina Turner made, and it's called Beyond Love. And there's a track on there which I used to use, and some of my friends use it now. And it's 4 singers with Tina Turner singing, and there's a lot of meditation coming out of it as soon as you start listening to it. Everything from the music being used, the instruments, to the soft voice of a deep woman, which is Tina Turner, giving you instructions, but not instructions directed at you, but telling you what your life goals should be. We'll pop the link in here at the end of this rather than try and search it now, but it is a really good song. We use it at the spiritual church as well for the beginners.
That's excellent. I think everybody will start liking it and get the link and start using it if they can. Now, the next question I'm going to hear you going, oh, no, this one again. So would you describe your ability status as a gift or as a curse?
It's definitely a gift, because I don't believe my life experiences have ever been anything but progress. I genuinely believe, Citizen, that we're on this earth plane to learn, and this is our classroom before we take a transition into the spiritual side of life. We have to fall many times so we can get up even more. We have to lose to gain. We have to hurt to feel joy. And as much as your daily bombardment from everything from the outside world to the spiritual world hitting you, it's all part of making you who you are. And it's the only thing what makes you as a watcher who's listening now who you are today, because of your trials and tribulations.
Yep. And as you says on your channel and some of your videos I was watching, when you're on this, it's basically like this is a costume that you've got on. You were a spirit before you were came into the body, and when you go, you were back to be a spirit again. But on the other side, I'm just trying to remember how you said it is. It's like an airport customs. I think that's what you says.
Yeah, you're checking in. Your destination is everything you've accomplished in life. And I know there's a lot of people who leave this earth plane who don't deserve a better life, but I genuinely believe we are who we are because it's our purpose. And I'm not going to go too deeply into the darkness of some people and what they've done in their lifetime,
Yeah.
but we're here to achieve our level of spiritualism before we move on to whatever you call it, across the veil to the other side, to a different plane. And this is just part of our many life cycles from start to finish. This is probably the most toughest one I'm aware of, and we only know what's happening now because our mind is erased of previous memory. However, there has been a lot of mention on people who've had past lives regression and TV programs about that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, for me personally, I've actually had an experience where it wasn't to do with my family. It was to do with somebody else when I was doing a house investigation. And to me, the spirit was basically showing me how it actually crossed over, or what it's basically like on the other side. Because what I was seeing, it was like a hospital ward, and I could hear like somebody shouting and like dancing type of thing. Then they went through like double doors, and there was like the big massive table, I suppose, like Buckingham Palace table. And it was like basically all their family members around. So basically, it's like they were waiting for them. I just thought I'd maybe share one of my experience with you there.
No, I mean, talking about our development side of things, at some point, I would hope that everyone who's wishing to work with spirits or even develop our senses would find their spirit guide. Now, some mediums will go through their life, and we're all sensitive, remember. We've all got the main gift, which is intuition. And a classic example of that, and people have heard me say this many times, we meet someone, we walk away, and there's just a little thing we don't like about that person. And normally 6 months down the road, we find out why we didn't like him. And our intuition actually told us there was a negative part of this person, which maybe let's not get too close to. And that is our biggest gift. And my mum always said to me, say what you see. It's like catchphrase. If you get given that information through your third eye, through your audience side of it, or you physically hear that, then you're hearing it, seeing it for a reason. Go with it. Just say what you see.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So what things in your life would you give up in an instant if you got to an even better place than you are now?
Do you know, if where I'm at now is the top of the ladder, then I'm happy. If there's a higher level, then that's a bonus. I've got a beautiful wife, a beautiful house, a beautiful family around me. I live in the most beautiful part of North Yorkshire with a sea view out of that window and the moor behind me. I'm really happy where I am. I mean, I've had some darkness in my life. I've been in places where I didn't want to be, but I knew no other. So I couldn't, I wasn't asked that question, but it's until you get asked it, it's a very hard question. But if someone said to me, this is the final now, you don't get any higher than where you're at, then I think I've achieved a lot so far. And what I have around me now with my loved ones and my wife and everything else, I'm happy. I mean, I've got money in the bank and it pays the way, and that's all it does. I mean, money isn't everything, as we know. No matter how much money we have, your tombstone is still the same size to the pauper next door. So it's not all about that. It's about love and what you give for others, I genuinely believe. So if nothing ever happens ever again and I don't buy another Ryobi tool, then I'm happy.
Exactly. Well, as the saying goes, you can't take everything with you.
Well, you can you? You leave everything here for someone else to take over. Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm Scottish, and there's quite a lot of Scottish that would try to take it with them, but
yeah.
So Neil, do any other of your family members have abilities?
No, unfortunately not. I'm hoping that my daughter, who's 24, should become a little bit more sensitive than what she is. She's very much like me in all her mannerisms. I've introduced her to a spirit guide, even though she's not aware that she's around her. And normally people will say to me, Neil, who's my spirit guide? Who's the person or whatever is around me guiding me? And we can't do that kind of work. We can't. I mean, very rarely we get told who the spirit guide is. And one of my teachers at the spiritual church in Phoenix, the first day I met her, I walked in, there was a nun in spirit stood at the side of her. And I said, oh, you've got a nun here with you. And she's putting a hand on your shoulder to show that, like, approval. And she said, oh, yes, it's my spirit guide. And I was fortunate to pick up on this. But we're not always fortunate because, one, we're not conjurers. We only connect with energy, and I work with a lot of physical energy rather than just what people are asking for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I'm hoping this is no negative question for you, but how do you handle disbelievers?
I think one famous medium who's in the spirit world now once said, and it was part of his promotion to who he was to the non-believer, there's no proof, and to the believer, there's no proof necessary. It's people have to see things in life just to believe that it's there. And if you tell them the paint's still wet, they'll still want to touch it to make sure. So unless we have that physical experience ourselves, or someone like our good selves as a medium walks up and tells them something which no one could possibly know, then how do you blow them away? How do you tell them that there is an afterlife? How do you tell them that the heaven isn't up on a cloud, but it's all around us? How do you prove this? And how do we tell people, don't worry, because when you get to the other side, there'll be an even prettier garden there for you there. I mean, until you get there, we will never know. Until someone like a medium approaches you and says this information to them, then there's no way. You just have to open yourself up, and if you're going to hear it, then you'll see and hear it. If not, then I mean, a lot of mediums haven't got they're not psychics, or not all psychics are mediums, but all mediums are psychic. It's a lot will not work with a spirit guide. They'll only work with the senses and the third eye. And they have to connect everything together like a jigsaw and try and make sense of what information they're getting given, because they can't physically hear their guard like I can with mine.
Yep, exactly. Now, as a spiritual medium, Neil, what is the most challenging investigation you ever taken on?
I've just done I've just done a lockdown special video, which is it's 2 parts, and I've joined them together using software on here and uploaded it. And it was at the old Nick Theatre, which is in Gainsborough. We've been there a few times. My first time there, I was working with the Anguish Man, the most haunted painting there. and that was quite challenging, but not as challenging as when I took a group of my friends there and I was working with spirit. It's an old prison. It's an old cell block. It's an old courthouse. It's an old police station, and it's now a theatre to the local community. But there's a lot of residual energy there. There's a lot of intelligent energy there. And when we were trying to show our guests how spirit can work with us on the good-natured side, a lot of the negativity was there, and that wanted to interfere. Now, other than myself, there was one other sensitive person there, which was Shane Corbett, a good friend of mine, but he wasn't picking up anything near to what I was picking up. And I think I actually say in the video that I started to worry when my spirit guide asked me for help. So it was trying to hold back this darkness and negative energy, just so we could continue and no one came of any harm. And I don't mean physical harm, because I'm not a believer in the demonic side of things, because nothing demonic walked on this earth. And if it did before my lifetime, then I will not pursue myself to the extent where I will incite anything demonic anyway. And my mum always said, it's the living which will hurt you. And you've all heard that saying. And we'll only connect with what once walked on this earth. And the most negative thing I ever heard about was someone like Hitler, someone like Fred West, someone like the nasty neighbour next door who kept sticking his pen in my ball every time it went over the fence. I mean, but these were nasty people in their time, from the previous early century, who did a lot of dark things and ended up being incarcerated. And obviously the intelligence side of their energy wanted to interfere again.
Mm-hmm. But as we know, if you're supposedly, like, if you're angry or maybe evil in life, you're going to be the exact same in death as well, even the same as if you're funny.
I think I think we rejoice at the turn of our transition. I genuinely believe that we've done what we've set foot on this earth plane to do, and when we get to that transition period of the path, then we will rejoice. I don't believe our loved ones and other people pass over and they don't either ask for forgiveness or offer for names. You will not be looked upon from the spirit world thinking, well, I'm not going to make contact with that evil person, because it's not like that. I've never, ever come into connection with a one-to-one spirit for a person in front of me where they've wanted to call them anything other than love.
Exactly. See, I was going back to that conversation about the airport thing, was where you go through the checkout and you leave all your hate, your anger, everything behind.
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. We check out of this world. We put our good bags down and leave the bad bags behind, and we're checking out. We're climbing onto that plane to the other side of things, and then we become even better persons than what we were here. And if you were a negative person here, then you're going to become a better person when you move on, and you won't take any grudges with you. Exactly like you said.
Yep. Now, I know we were speaking about the psychic and why people can speak to their loved ones, etc. But the way I see it is, the more you think about your loved ones in a good way, giving them a call and to come calling to you.
Yes, I often say, when I used to do the one-to-ones where I went to people's houses, I would cordially invite them to get the photo album out, get the VHS recorder out, put in the old videos, go through all the pictures and build up as much energy as possible of this person that would like to connect to. And I always say, Sidson, that they know what we're saying, whether we're speaking in our mind or out loud. So to speak about our mothers and fathers and our children and our nanas and granddads, they're listening, they're here. And we've had experiences as a family. I have personally, where I have me and my two brothers who live thousands of miles apart have all had the same experience at the same time. And you have to remember, time is a man-made invention. It doesn't carry over to spirit world. So what may seem like a lifetime we're here for isn't once we pass over. But we've all had these same experiences. We've all been talking about on an anniversary of our parents' death, and we all had a spiritual experience together at the same time. So spirit doesn't work with time. It just goes to where it can hear its voice being called.
Okay, yep. That was one of my questions away a bit further on there. So
yeah, sorry. Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So are there any common threads where people have crossed over and continuously trying to tell you the same thing?
In what way? What do you mean by that, Steve?
I mean, are you constantly getting the same thing as like how the past, or are they trying to give you the same message roughly as like maybe the next 3 other people?
I can honestly say that every time I connect to spirit and I'm to pass it on to a loved one, it's unconditional, pure love. It's nothing but that. But then if you're in a different scenario on a paranormal event or ghost hunt, as some may call it, then you get to hear the history of that person. So speaking to a reader and telling them who's with me, then it's like I say, everything's just pure love. On the paranormal side, it's a history lesson in the making. But there's so many tragic deaths which have happened so many times. We do encounter the same reading from time to time, or little bits. I know from experience when I've read to numerous people, I then come across a link, and it's very much similar to the person who was sat 4 people away. And I actually think, are these people connected, or am I generally with a different person? And this other person also had that same condition or the same injury or the past the same way. So you do get a lot of the same, but it's like there's not 2 people alike on this earth plane in the living world, and no 2 messages are the same from the spirit world. It'll always be unique to that individual.
Yeah. No, I kind of just answer this, but so some of us feel like we have a guardian angel, as you already said it. Maybe it's a parent or a sibling. We lost a child, and do you believe in that? And you just says yes, you do.
We before my beliefs is, as we set foot on this earth plane, we've already been assigned a guide. My spirit guide is called Phil. He's a Texan cowboy, and as I've learned over the years of working with his energy, that me and him once served way back in the early 18th century as cowboys, and we were taken out on a prairie in a gun battle. We set foot on this earth with a spirit guide, and this guide is assigned to us from the start of our timeline right to the end of our timeline. Whether that timeline is that big or it's as long as your arms, we'll never know until we get there. Now, around us is our loved ones in spirit and our ancestors in spirit as well. So although we have the main tutor who's telling us what to do and how to do it, and we don't always know the influences we're getting from these spirit guides, we just carry out our tasks. Our loved ones who have gone to spirit also our gatekeepers and guides. So they become, like, as I described, the outer circle. So we won't set on this earth. We won't set foot on this earth plane the exact same way we won't turn on a £2,000 laptop. Unless it's got a firewall on it, then I'm not switching this on. I am not connecting to the internet and ruining this. And my mum always said that you should never open yourself up to spirit until you've got that firewall, which is your spirit guide and then your other guides in there. So where I'm going with this is the outer circles, from the spirit guide to your siblings, your loved ones, and then even the animal kingdom as well. All your pets, everyone you've ever lived with and passed over, they'll all be waiting for you as and when we take our transition as well.
I totally agree on that one. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to play a little clip from Neil's channel. And if you guys would like to go over there and subscribe and like his videos, as I say, I'll play a little clip here.
Staffordshire. It's that kind of breed of dog. Not sure what, but it's a stocky little dog, and it used to sit outside the guard's room, and I'm assuming that is the guard's room. Do you know what it looks like? A British bulldog. It's actually breathing like a British bulldog. Mother, how Cass would when she was really tired. It's a really like. It sounds out of breath, but there's nothing wrong with it. That's just its words. Really cold in here, but there is a chimney, so there could be air coming down there. But there's a someone escaped from here, but they're telling me they went up. They didn't go down. The little school chairs are here, I've just noticed. And this is what I could feel someone. Come on, Charlie, come and sit on this chair for me, please. I've asked a little boy to come up, who I picked up on earlier on, and I found this little tiny chair here, which is kind of a school type chair. I don't believe he's connected to the chair, but it's something he would be familiar with.
No, I've come towards the chair, it's spiking. It's gone up from 30 something to there, it's already peaking over to 50. So it's definitely picking something up.
Go right to the chair, see what that is.
I'm trying to think if you see it.
It's 2 steps in front, you know.
What's that? 54.
It's picking you now.
56.
What was working quite well then, we'll work around the circle and you can all ask a different question.
Can my brother give me his name, please?
Keith, there you go. Last time I was here and I was setting up the cameras, as I come down this corridor where I would have been halfway just past Martin, energy came from this doorway, if though I'd startled it, and it rushed me straight up the corridor, passing me, like Slimer did where he went through me in the video and out the other side. I was a little disturbed by it, which sometimes, every now and then they get me and spook me, and it was one of them times where, yes, you got me that time.
So I hope you liked that there, Neil.
Yeah, very well put together. You picked all the best shots and all the right angles. Yep.
Okay, as we carry on with the interview, now can we talk about what you do as a medium? So people that have passed over speak through you to their loved ones. How come they don't go directly to their loved ones?
Well, I think we've already answered this. Not all of us are sensitive as others. I genuinely believe that the audience who are sat with us now, sat watching, genuinely have their loved ones in spirit at the sides, and unless we actually open ourselves up in a good way, like we've talked about through meditation, then we'll never hear or see them. Now, with respect to that, we may never hear or see them. This is the downside of it as well. I can remember laying in the bathtub once and saying to my mum, Mum, why is it that when I hear this noise in my ears, it sounds like I'm laid under the water, and it sounds muffled, like it's coming through another room or mud? And she said, is the frequency between the spirit world and ours is out of sync, just like the old radio, which you had to get dead on the FM channel. And until we hit that exact same frequency where both come together, then we may never hear anything clear clarity. So it does take a lot. But I will tell you that a lot of your listeners, excuse me, who are sat listening now are going to put their hands up and say, I've experienced this. When we go to sleep at night, we go through so many stages of sleep. Now, the first is when we lay in our bed and we wind down and we talk to our loved ones or ourselves. Then we run the day's cycle through our head again and worry that little bit about what we need to do tomorrow. And then we're getting sleepy and we keep forgetting what we're worrying about. And just as we get into the hypnotic state of sleep, you'll hear a voice go, Neil. And you'll open your eyes up straight away and you'll hear it yourself. Someone will say, Stephen. And you'll go, someone's just called my name out. And that is when we are at that frequency, we're coming down into the sleep pattern and spirit world is here. And we just tune in like that and you hear your voice, Neil. Now, spirit is more likely to contact you in your hypnotic state, i.e. through meditation, or when we're working as a medium, which is like I am now, we're in that meditated state in the mind. And this is where we'll hear spirit the most. A classic example of this was many years ago, scientists put earphones on people and played a recording of them linguaphone tapes, which had foreign languages on. And they did the same with other people who were doing it asleep. Now, the people who slept through the recording learned the language quicker than the people who were awake, because the hypnotic mind is more receptive to frequencies and sounds and other things. And we all know we'll wake up, or should I say we'll hear an alarm in our dream, then all of a sudden we open our eyes and it's the alarm outside our dream. So we do hear and see things in our sleep as well. And spirit like to come to us then, because they're less likely to scare the jahibas out of us while we're asleep than they are just appearing in your front room.
Mm-hmm. Now, I can also, when you're in that sleep thing, you can also get visions for things that could happen in the future as well.
Yes, you can. I often see things. I find my first early days of meditation was when I was doing decorating. I was once wallpapering, and although I was sensitive and I was aware I had the ability, and I started seeing things if though I was rubbing the wallpaper on, but there was no wallpaper there, and nor was the wall, the drywall, the plasterboard was there, and I could see further away, but everything was black and white, and I was tapping in and out of what was the law of the land and not the house I was actually decorating. And this was my own house, and I could see fields after fields after fields of how it looked like before I literally moved there. So yeah, we can do that. We can see things in the meditated state, sleep being one of them. And I've many a time in that meditated state, but awake, seen things as I passed people, whether it been work colleagues, family members, and I have to tell them. But my mum always told me never to preach, Neil. Never run up to someone and tell them something about the afterlife. Let them know that you know about the afterlife, and let them run up to you and ask.
Yeah, when you were just saying that, it sounded like my mum there. Do not preach.
Yeah. Don't preach. Just let them know who you are, what you do, and let them come to you, because me and you are not everyone's cup of tea. And I can honestly say, other than probably one person, I've never sent a friend's request out on my Facebook pages, because 9 times out of 10, someone will say, oh, clear off, you're talking out of your backside. And I know from statistics that only 3 people in the UK out of 10 believe in what we do. But in America, 7 people out of 10 believe in what we do. So it's the audience you approach as well, Citizen. It's who you're speaking to. you have to consider as well.
Yeah. Well, it's not your job to go about and try and make people believe and type of thing. You're just passing the message.
No, exactly that. Yeah. My page is open to everyone who wants to come to me. And that's one thing I mentioned to that guy I spoke about, Michael McIver. Don't set up a channel and send 1,000 friends requests out. Set up a channel and just tell everyone who you are and what you do, and they'll find you and come to you.
Exactly. Exactly, Neil. Now, I ken you've been on TV and radio. So, is there any pros and cons taking your ability to platforms such as like TV or radio?
Yes, I haven't been paid for any of it. That's the cons. No, my mum always said it's a gift, Neil. Why should you charge someone else for it? And that's always been the case. It's also been my bugbear because people know I do my readings for free and the majority of my work for free. Unfortunately, my manager is in the other room at this moment in time watching this live feed, so I have to be careful what I say. But my wife is also my manager as well, so she manages that side of it. But it's the pros is I'm getting myself out there. I'm letting everyone know who I am and what I do, and I'm attracting the right audience. That's all I care about. If I entertain you for 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes that I haven't entertained you for, and it's only all in the I do it for the love and the light of what I do. It's just a great gift, and I want to share it with as many people who want to watch it. And we don't have to click on them links. We don't have to go to them events, nor do we have to stay on the same TV channel that I might be on one day. But it's up to you. And if you do stay with us, then you'll be in for a good ride. You will. There's two things we've just filmed up in Scotland. You've just shown partial of it, of the Jedburgh jail, if I pronounce it right. We filmed then for a TV company called True Ghost Stories, and they were taking that across to America first and showing it across their networks. And hopefully at some point we'll see it back on our TV when they get sick of watching me, and they'll sell it to someone else like Really TV and stuff like that. But work like that, it's like a good carpenter. He has to charge cheaply at the start so he gets all the jobs at the end. And in my case, I do it for the fun, because someday someone might want to reward me for what I've done. And if that's within my work, what I've done, then I'll accept that reward. But other than now, it's all for love. And I know my inbox is just going to fill up now.
I mean, I do agree what you says there, for doing like free, because what I believe in is the spirits don't pay another side to try and contact.
No, they don't, no. And I know if all the people I've ever read for on here now watching, and I'd like to think some have tuned in, they'll be able to confirm how much they're paid for my services. And I know it's going to say a load of zeros because I've never charged yet. I've charged for my bus fare there, and I've charged to hire a location, which has cost hundreds of pounds, but the money accumulate together. And even our two paranormal investigators will say that they're paid the exact same amount as the going rate, so we could all enjoy this location together. And that's the only time we've charged the service. The tea and hobnobs have come free.
As long as you get your hobnobs.
That's to be hobnobs. In fact, I had once charged someone for a reading, and it was for a Nescafe and hobnobs, and they had to be chocolate. And when I got there, they had Nescafe out. They'd gone out and bought Nescafe, and there was a blue packet of hobnobs on the table. And I was struggling to read it, looking at them hobnobs at the same time. It did put a dampers on things.
It's kind of putting you off there. The biscuit staring back at you. Yeah, but as you were saying, now I can, if people maybe are watching and they maybe had a bad experience with psychic that's charged. Now I know I've tried one myself, but the advice they were giving back was really awkward. They couldn't get any names right or anything like that. And I don't care if you know what I'm talking about. They came up and says, "There's a name Gary," does it name Peter? Does it name Paul? They were like going through each name at a time until I can go, yes, Simon knows something.
A bit like Whoopi Goldberg on the film Ghost. The way I would always advise to source a good medium is let them know who you are, and that's it, and that you want to speak to them. If they can do it immediately, a bonus. If they want to set you on a timetable for 4 months' time, then if they weren't a genuine person, that gives them time to find you on social media, go through your garbage, or actually search all the obituaries on your surname going back to the ancestors' day. And then if you only ever hear what you've posted on social media and all your ancestors who died yesterday, then you know you're paying good money for a poor service. If someone can stop you in the street and say, look, I know you're sensitive, I am too, and I've got this message for you, and here it is, and it blows you away, and they don't take any money off you at the same time, then jobs are good, and I would say in a northern accent. There's a few people out there who I don't agree on. They're doing it wrong, and I won't go into that side of it because this show isn't about to out people. But you also have to consider that as much energy as it takes for us to conjure spirit, it takes just as much, if not more, for spirit to make that contact as well. Now, on your level and ability to be a medium or to be sensitive, not everyone will get a spirit guide at the side of them saying, Neil, what the person is saying is this, and then physically in a clear audible language tell me, and then I'll pass it on. That message may actually come directly from that person who's struggling with their energy. And if you're not open to all your senses, you may only get a message through picture format. And if you do, it's like putting a jigsaw together. So as much as some people sound very cold in what they're doing, they could be just in that development stage where they're struggling a bit. When they start going through the alphabet, then you need to be asking questions. But I'll tell you one thing which your listeners can look at in the near future when they're developing. My mum said to me, let's see if I can get the hand right, there we go. She said, when you read for someone, Neil, hold an imaginary colander, a sieve, what you wash your lettuce in, right here in your mind, right? And allow all the messages to come through that sieve, and what falls through the sieve and comes directly to you, then pass it over, right? What gets left in the sieve, leave it there, right? At the end of your message, and when you're finished and you ask if there's any questions and they ask and you answer them, then tell them about your imaginary sieve and would you allow me to mention what's in there? And you probably find that the things still sat in that imaginary sieve are things which they can relate to. So that was my learning way. So I allowed all my messages to come through a colander, a sieve, and what dropped through, I gave. And then at the end of it, I gave that as well. And then I've learned that I didn't need that sieve anymore. Or if I did in some cases, I automatically passed the messages across as well. And as you develop and as you become more familiar with what your guide is telling you and what you're hearing is right, and you're listening to your mum's words, say what you see, then it becomes quite fluent. But I never try and get ahead of myself. If I can't get what they're asking for, then I'll tell them I can't. And if I don't get the full name and I ask it to spell phonetically and it still doesn't come through, I'll tell them it does sound similar to this, but I'm not going to try and guess. And if it doesn't fit from the start, I won't make it fit.
Yep. Well, I think you've just answered my next question, but I think, I'm not sure, you may have just... So how do you deal when you can't get a connection from a spirit when you're doing a reading?
Well, if the word is in the clue is in the question. If you can't, you can't. Now, I used to always work with people where you can go to Blackpool and walk into one of them wooden huts, and give someone £5 and they'll tell you all about your future. And then when you leave, you have to ask yourself, at what point do I go back and say, can I have my money back, because none of it came true? Mm-hmm. So it's good for a medium not to tell them about the future, but to tell them about now and the past. And once they understand that everything you're saying is, wow, how does you know all that? And how does you know what's going on in my life? Yeah. When I then start telling them about the future and the loved ones and everything else, they've got faith in me, because previously everything I said meant something anyway. So always be cautious of what you're being told and the clairvoyant side of it. And although I do believe in the tarot cards and things like that, I do tend to think my previous dealings with them, it's clairvoyant. It's you're turning it over and saying, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, this is what's going on. Well, I can do that verbally without words and pictures. So I tend not, we've got plenty around the house and some really pretty ones somewhere, but it's something I moved away from now because the development side of it doesn't require a clairaudient side from the start. I like to just go straight in for the jugular and work that way.
Yeah, definitely. And I know your manager's ears are going to pop over in this one here.
Oh yes, yes.
Can you explain your reading process and how you connect to the spirits?
So, as we previously said, I will invite that person to build up that energy themselves, because I'm a physical medium and I work with energy. And although I do readings online from time to time, I can only go through the energy which is coming through from the person, like your good self, or how much they're putting into what they're saying to me. And we know people say there's no energy, there's no, what's that word, when someone sends you a text and you see the cheeky so-and-so. Well, there is energy there, and they put that energy in there. And you have to remember the whole universe is made out of energy, right down to the materials which were used to make this TV remote. It's all energy. And as long as there's energy used for that communication, then a good medium will read from it. So then building up more energy just helps the spirit world not only to use their energy, but mine. And you will hear on a paranormal event where everyone holds hands and they'll do a little prayer and they'll invite spirit into the circle, and they'll try and build up that energy to the extent that not only will spirit manipulate the energy, but even the gadgets around us, the electronic devices. So it's from the offset, it's all about energy. Bring the energy to the room, build it up, look at all them nice pictures of yesteryear and the loved ones you want to connect to, and then allow the medium to enter your circle within your home or wherever, at the podium, in the church, and then he will work on that energy. As he gets the connections coming through, I will then make that connection, and I'll ask for validation mainly. I want to know where I need to go with what they're telling me or who is sat in front of me. And on that basis, I tend to specifically go to a chair or a point, if it's a one-to-one, and then I'll ask for more validation, because we can all say, I've got an old gentleman sat with me and he looks like a granddad, and everyone over the age of 50 has a granddad in the spirit world. So it's asking for that specific validation. A classic example, one which I did on a home reading, where a colleague of my manager's came round, and the first thing this gentleman wanted to say was, it's his granddad. And he said, well, I've got two. And he said, tell him I've got this bit of my finger missing. And he said, oh, it's Granddad Joe, I know who you mean. And I mean, the other one had all his digits. So straight away, this strong energy, and this guy was coming to my house solely for this reading and an uplift in his life, which was a bit traumatic. And his granddad was there, and he said straight away, it's this one. Tell him it's this one. and that's it. It's all about building that energy and looking for them key signs they're trying to tell you.
There's always a Grandpa Joe somewhere along the line, isn't there?
There is, and there's always an Audrey and an Ethel and Hillary and someone else and a Hilda Ogden somewhere. So we can all shout to an audience of old people and say, I've got a Mary here. Who can take that? And every hand goes up in the air. We need to be more specific. We don't want to look like charlatans. We want to do what that audience or that person wants from us and give them that validation that their loved ones are here. But you should be able to give that validation yourself. Each and every one of you who are listening to this, you should know, I've got a tickly nose, you should know that your loved ones are in spirit around you. And I've always said, heaven isn't a cloud somewhere where we look up and we see our loved ones looking down. Heaven is all around us, and you'll have often heard someone say, we make our own heaven. So whatever's around you, we create that ourselves. And we also make our own hell as well. If you believe in that side of things, then we make our own demons and our own angels as well.
I noticed you were getting a sign behind you there. Your lights were starting to flicker when you were talking.
Yes, I often get it. I know there's a few spirits with me now, but they're certainly connected with me. They normally play with me aspects of what I'm using. There's no updates going on, and they also affect, well, as we all know, as we are spirits in the spirit world, they mess with our electrics and things like that.
And that's why, like, even batteries and that always get drained and that as well.
This is it, which we find a lot on our paranormal adventures.
Yep. Now, I kind of brought this up before. Go back to it again. And now, in your own opinion, Neil, how would you like people to view mediums? I know I say it's like messenger or a man in the middle, but do you have your own opinion?
I think in today's technology, we'll make our opinions on the basis of who's out there in the social world of things, because gone are the days, or gone are the months, should I say, where you can physically go along and see a medium in his own home, or he can come to you because of the current climate. But I think it's all word to mouth. It's recommendations now. If your friends had a medium come to them in the past, then ask them, ask for what validation did they give you, and on a basis of 1 to 10, and you being a friend, am I worth going to see that person, or should I be looking elsewhere? Normally, we do everything in life through recommendations, from getting our car MOT the same day to where's the cheapest place to get your spectacles from, and someone will tell you. So ask your good persons around you. Most of them you will probably know about, because if you want to speak to a medium, then your belief is already there, because why would you want to go and speak to someone you don't believe in? So you will have your mindset on who you'd like to speak to. So at this moment in time, everything's social media, from Twitter to Facebook to YouTube. Your good people are out there, and you've got the opportunity to sit back invisible and listen to what they're saying on their live feeds. And you can spend as long as you want, and you go, do you know what? I trust this person and what they're saying, so I'm going to put my faith in them. And then that gives you the opportunity, where possible, to make arrangements to have a one-to-one with that person, either through a live feed, through a private message, or in the near future, a one-to-one where you can meet up. But another way of doing it is get yourself along to the local spiritual church when they're all open back up. That's a very good place to start. Sit right at the back. You'll still be picked, but then you can watch the vibrations of every row in front of you. You can watch the reader giving his messages out and how he works. And these are local people that they haven't come from the other side of the world. They've come into town from the next, and they do this for the fun of it. They love what they do, and they get paid their petrol money, and they have their own church back in their town as well. So there's nothing stopping you jumping on the local bus or driving to his location, their location, or coming back to that church and getting that one-to-one in a session with that person. We're so easy to find, and there's a lot of good people like myself out there doing it right. And you'll know the ones who aren't doing it right, because the feedback will come back from other people.
And as we know, there is always going to be mediums because there's always going to be death on the planet.
This is it. We're all mediums. Every one of us has that gift. We're born with it. How we work with it and try and bring it to the top again is the choice is yours. Only you have that power to do that. No one's going to drag it out of you like they would a demon. It has to be done yourself. So my advice would be to open yourself up. I don't mean walk around the house with incense burning and sage and all panpipe music. Just open yourself up in here. Just ask your loved ones to give you the sign. Things I do, not just remember they can hear you whether you're talking your mind or out loud. You can ask any loved one in spirit now or after this show. I've listened to what they've talked about today. I know I have the ability to connect to you. Please come to me when I'm in my hypnotic state of sleep and give me a sign that you've come. And even if you see them in your dream state or you get one of them call outs just as you're going into it, that's validation for me. I mean, I know it sounds kind of a grey thing, but ask them for the favourite song to come on the radio the next time you're driving to work. Ask for something significant which only they would know about, or ask for the favourite smelling cologne or perfume they would wear. Do that, or ask for a sign from nature. And if you see a butterfly this time of the year on your window ledge, which shouldn't be here, then there's your classic sign.
Yeah. Now, as you know as well, Neil, you don't want to be the middleman. Class it as middleman anyway. You would rather put the spirit on towards the loved ones, but again, you're stuck in the middle. But you're hopefully trying to work with the person getting the reading to move the spirit to them so they could feel it more. And
well, I think after a reading, the individual person who's come to you does take that energy away with them. They do feel that presence. When you get into that zone, it's like watching a movie. You become so involved in the atmosphere builds up that you're actually part of that movie. And when someone jumps out of the closet with a gun, you duck. And it's the same with the reading. It's like you get so into it from a good reader, and they take you with that calming voice. And I hope my voice is calming, but they take you to that location where spirit wants you to be. They take you to that holiday destination where Grandad once took you and walked you right the full length of the beach and back. And they'll do that with you, and that reader will give you that calming sensation and validation of this, which spirit will give to him, and you'll get that. And most people, and my good friend Derek from Spirit always said, look for the signs when you get home tonight. They'll be there waiting for you. They'll follow you home. And that was one of his closing pieces of every reading. Wait till you get home, look for that sign. They'll be there waiting for you, bless him. Yeah. And he always said that to everyone he read for. If they didn't believe what he was saying there, it'll be waiting at home for you.
Yeah, that's one man I definitely love was Derek. Now, again, you've got to try and watch what you're saying here. Try and please no saying the names if you can. But what are your thoughts on other mediums?
Well, I only pay attention to the ones I like, and I don't listen to the ones I once disliked. So you'll only watch the films you want to watch, and you won't watch the channels you don't want to watch. So we all have opinions. I try not to be negative in my life. I try and keep my energy as high as possible so I can pass it on to other people. So you wouldn't watch a certain soap program if you couldn't stand the characters in it. And I don't listen to the people who I don't believe are doing it right. The good people out there are the most famous ones. That's where they are now. One of the good ones I like to watch and listen to on YouTube is Fraser. He's a good guy. You've got your Tony Stockwell's. Gone is your Colin Fry and Derek Acora. James, the American guy. There's some really good people out there, but I don't think we're putting ourselves out there as much as we can. I mean, if you think back now to what you see on YouTube, live streams and TV, everything's a rerun anyway. There's not many people from paranormal to me and you sat here now out there doing anything. It's hard to, in this moment, to actually think, well, who are the bad ones? I haven't seen them. Yeah, but then I could say that with a lot of paranormal investigators as well, Chris. There's a lot of people who are in it for one thing, and others are in it for the love of the paranormal world. And we could spend another show talking about that, but we're not here to do that. We're here to bring the love and light.
Exactly. Now, I was watching your video, the one that's called Taking All Things Spooky and Paranormal, Answering Them Burning Questions. I think
Yes.
on the 30th of August, 2018, it's where you're talking to a viewer about pennies moving around your home as a sign.
Yes.
I totally agree on myself, the old saying, penny from heaven.
Yeah.
Now, some people don't click on that as a sign that a penny,
Exactly.
maybe a penny could have a year in it, maybe for a birthday or an anniversary. Do you agree on this?
I genuinely do. Shortly after that show, or the show before it, I'm not sure now, because this might have got onto the topic of where the pennies come from. My father was a renowned pigeon fancier. He raced pigeons. They're here with us now. My father, let's see if I can get him to interact again. My dad had pigeons all his life, from the age of 18 to him dying, and he raced them, he collected them, he even picked them up off the street and took them home, bless him. And I had a spiritual encounter, stood at the kitchen sink, looking out the window, and my father's energy was near to me, and I just asked, can I ask for some more guidance? And a pigeon out of nowhere came down onto the lawn and sat there, and it was fixated on me. Was it fixated on me because it was waiting for me to move to fly off, or was it saying, look, I'm here as a sign? And I accepted it as a sign. And a lot of good mediums will say, if you believe that's for you, then take it as a sign. Yeah. Now, the next day, my wife and I opened the front door to leave the house, and there was 2 pennies on the doorstep. Now, why I took it as a sign, anyone else would say, well, you probably fell out your pocket as you left the house. And that got us onto the subjects of pennies, and I think that's what incorporated into the live stream, which was some years ago now. These are signs, and it's not just the pennies; it's the feathers as well. We've all had that feather in front of us where we sat on the bench or on the deck chair in the garden or on the doorstep. They're just dropping by and saying, look, whether you get it right now, but I'm going to leave this coin here, and when you pick it up, you need to think of me. And it's becoming such a thing now where, like you said, pennies from heaven, we look down and go, pennies from heaven, it's a sign. And then we start thinking about that loved one we were thinking about before. So even if you weren't thinking about them before, they know that what you're thinking up here, wait, I'm getting a bit in depth here, they will trigger that thought, I'm trying to say, to you to think about them. Is it an anniversary? Is it a birthday coming up? Is it a symbolic time in your life where you're needing healing or comfort or something else? And is this the time for you to ask for that? Are they letting you know they're here for that? So there's always a connection with the feather, the bird, the butterfly, the ladybug, or the pennies on the doorstep. There's always that connection there. But we have to accept that as being that. And if we're not accepting it, then maybe we're not opening ourselves up, like we've talked about, to connect to spirit.
Yeah. I mean, I can, like, if a person that you knew was maybe a penny pincher, and when he passed, you always find little pennies going about. That's like the little sign to say I'm still here.
I know every time my partner puts money down on the work surface or somewhere, she can hear me sneaking them off into my pocket for for next time I go to the shop, and she calls me that. So I know when my time comes, I'll have to be leaving £1 coins, because that's what I keep stealing from her.
There's going to be a load of £1 coins everywhere.
It'll be contactless in your kids' lives, yeah. Yeah, you'll have to have chip and pin and leave it on the side for your loved ones to swipe the cards.
Okay, now I've only got one last question for you. Now, hopefully, I can. You had a problem with this, but hopefully the question works out. You know how you did the investigation with Shane and Andrew at the site of the Battle of Towton in North Yorkshire? The three of you caught a phantom soldier on horseback. Now, in that image that was reported by the Mirror newspaper.
Yes.
Now, the question that I have it is, did you see any other figures there? Now, the reason why I'm asking this is, as I looked at the image and I could see another figure, and it wasn't near the horse, and it was just at the site of the tree that I seen it, which I'm going to try and show you. Again, people might not know what I'm talking about, so if I share this first.
Do you want me to just... All right.
So there's the image that the newspaper was reporting. So this is why I didn't know if you had more on it, but they were just reporting on just the one bit that they could see.
What I see there, Citizen, is that area where I believe there's a gentleman on a horse is in a dip. The road is in between him and where he stood, and there's an embankment down that location. Now, we're aware of that because both fields on that side of the road and this side were all part of the Battle of Towton. Now, the road is now cutting right through the battlefields because obviously modern era's taken over. But the original land was 2 hedgerows, and obviously they've come along and built a bypass through the middle of it, or a road through the middle of it. Now, where we see what I would say a gentleman on a horseback is down around 4 to 5 feet. And I believe that the figure to the black mass is the gentleman sat on a horse, and the black mass, if you can picture the neck and mane of the horse moving up the left-hand side of it, and the head of the horse now coming back down on the right-hand side. Now, during the course of the night, we kept hearing what I could only describe as if you were stood outside of a stable during the course of the night, what you find, and I've heard this before, where horses stamp the feet or the hooves, and you get a thud. In the actual live streams we did, we kept making reference to this horse-like thud if though someone was riding around or there was a horse near us, and our torches were shining around the field looking for this. Now, at the very end of the night, and although we were aware of the presence of a horse or more, we then we then took this selfie photo, and it was, okay, guys, it's a wrap. And that was around 3:30 in the morning, and we jumped in our vehicles and went our separate way. Now, that picture sat on my desktop for nearly a year, but it was in the dark format. I hadn't brightened it up. And I'm sat looking at my screen, and just one angle where I was sat exactly in front of this image, I'm thinking, oh, what's that behind us? Is someone stood there? So through the edit and create feature, which you see on that image now you've uploaded, I lightened the picture, and straight away, as a sensual being, as a spiritual person, I then picked up on that being spirit. And I genuinely believe it's my spirit guide on horseback, my cowboy spirit guide, Phil. And although I never asked him, was this, I believe that was him showing himself at the time as being around us, protecting us. And I'm still going to say that to this day. I genuinely believe what we were hearing that night was my Texan cowboy riding around, just keeping an eye on us. And this location, for those who are not familiar with it, well, it's going to be further now, but on the anniversary of the Battle of Taunton, which took place more than 550 years ago, on Palm Sunday, we turned up on this location 550 years later, and we then did a ghost, paranormal and spiritual walk around, looking for the energy of what once happened in this field. Yeah. Now, you have to remember 88,000 people died in this location, 20,000 of them within the first hour of the battle. And the Lancashires were fighting the Yorkshiremen and vice versa. And the Yorkshiremen had the advantage because it was a snowstorm. They were firing from up a hill using the bow and arrow. And within the first hour, they'd killed 20,000 people with just the bow and arrow. And the remaining battle took place for nearly 48 hours, where the remaining people were butchered and slaughtered on the field just to make sure these people were finally dead. And there's a lot about it. If you type in Battle of Taunton, Towton, I think, it's in Wikipedia. It'll show you it in words and pictures. And it's quite harrowing it is to read that we once fought battles like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, as I say, I've seen a different image, so hopefully I can try and bring this up for you. I need to share it again. My share button just disappeared on me. Sorry, and you'll just give me a second, it'll come up.
That's okay.
Sorry guys, I'm no blinking you in chat, it's just that I was trying to do the interview first before Neil answer your question. Sorry guys, I'm no blinking.
That's just me. Sorry, I'm just going to knock the volume off.
Before Neil asks.
There we go.
Okay, the last one was nice and easy. Why is that in that one? Ah, there we go. Stay up there. So if I can, where is that image? The image is not there. Drag it up. There we go. Right. So this is the one that I'm wanting. Now,
wow.
Yeah, if you look, it looks like the actual hat is someone that you can see the hat. You can see an eye.
If you leave your arrow where it is now, put your arrow back to where you did. I'm pointing at the screen, not that you can see me. Go a centimetre to the right. No, that's left. So yeah, leave it there. Right. Everyone who's watching now, look at the left-hand side of the mouse cursor and go down a few millimeters, and you see your human face, 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. I don't know if you can see that, citizen, but just
it's he's holding a rifle.
Yeah, and he's just left of the mouse cursor. His head is almost just above the grass verge, but you have to remember that 1 million billion dust particles fall on this earth every year, and this battle was 550 years ago. And when we see Romans marching through on these ghost story pictures, actually over his face, you have to remember they're walking the path, they're in the field, how the field was back 550 years ago. So if he had showed himself as an apparition there, then he may well have shown himself. I can actually see the horse's legs in the other one now.
Yeah.
The other picture, which is in the same shot of the horseman, if you go to the right, directly underneath the horseman, you can see the horse's legs as well. Why haven't I seen these? Can you see them? Can you see the back of the horse's head? Now look at the underneath the lighter part. You can see 4 legs stood there.
Mm-hmm.
Am I seeing that? Is anyone else seeing that?
Now, I don't know if it's my eyes that's playing tricks, but where you're seeing the 2 legs, it kind of looks like it's pulling a cart or something.
Well, directly under what I'm seeing as the cowboy is 2 white-looking legs, which you can see through, and directly under the horse's neck, you can also, towards the lighter part of the photograph, in comparison of how big a horse would be stood, you can see 2 like lines, if though they're legs from the horse coming down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all see things differently. Some people can see Mickey Mouse, others can see Donald Duck, but some people will honestly say it's pareidolia, and it's your brain just making faces out of clouds. But the thing you've circled there, if that was a clock, where that, in fact, directly under the head you mentioned, there's another face exactly underneath it, which is where the center, almost the center, just above the center of that circle is. So there's 2 faces above each other. I know we'll be seeing this. Shane Corbett's watching now. Maybe he can comment and make reference to the horse's legs, because he's a very sensitive person. He may be able to pick up on energy from this as well. But Shane is the one in the picture, not the one we can just see his forehead and his 2 beautiful eyes, Alexandra, but just left out of the picture. That's Shane Corbett. Shane's part of Northern Ghost Hunters, but he was once committed to the GSI family, and made us who we are today, along with Andrew. And they got us up on our feet, did us proud, and then they went off with their tails waggling to go and do better things themselves. So big shout out to you 2 guys.
Yep.
Yeah, I see that now. I'm going to look at it. The thing is, I'm using a 43-inch LG TV as my computer screen, so it doesn't show the resolution PCs are meant to show, and what might be a normal picture on your mobile phone or a proper 144 megahertz screen monitor.
Yeah.
TVs don't do that, so you get a slight different effect. So am I having this as an advantage, and I can now see the horse's legs, but on your computer screens, I'm going to screenshot that, and there I've screenshot it. So now I've screenshot the resolution I've got. I'll send that back to you and see if you can see what I can see.
Okay, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for covering that. I was just wanting to make sure on that one, thinking maybe I was seeing things I was not meant to be seeing.
There's definitely more spirit in there. Another classic example of that is the helicopter pilot at the Sunderland Air Museum. Now, this helicopter, we caught the pilot who flew this in his day. In the image, he sat looking out with his head turned like that. You can see the wings on his hat. You can see the exact same facial definitions as you've seen in that picture.
Yeah.
But a lot of other people said, well, I can see loads of deathly faces in the screens of the windshields of the helicopter. Well, you have to remember that material holds energy, and this helicopter would only have picked up people suffering from traumatic injuries, if not death. It was used lastly in the Falklands crisis for the ship which was on fire. So the majority of the cargo it carried was dead people from a burning ship. In its time as air sea rescue, it would have tragically carried people who would have drowned at sea or fatal accidents under the Coast Guard duties. So why wouldn't it show a lot of deathly faces in the image? Because the residual and intelligent energy attached to it would want to show itself anyway. Just like this picture does there. I can see that guy quite clearly on my TV screen, but that's showing a different resolution, which now makes me want to look at things differently when we're looking for evidence now.
Yeah.
It's a wild pixel.
I spotted that to bring that up to your.
Yeah, it's definitely spirit. I'm telling you, Now, Steve, that is Steve, I forgot your name. It's definitely spirit in that picture. I'm getting excited with what I'm seeing, that's why.
See, that's what I like, to make people excited. Now, let's see if we can try and make the viewers excited, because it's their turn to try and ask you any questions. So you guys in chat, if you want to ask Neil anything, you're more than welcome to.
So this chat's going to be on YouTube, innit? Because I can't see that. Oh, now I can hear. Right. Yes, please feel free, guys. If there's any burning question you want to ask, or experiences you want to share, and I can give you my verdict on why, then I'm here to do that. I'm not on a clock, so no one's paying me by the hour. So you've got me all night if Chris Citizen wants it.
I don't think we want to be on here all night. As you guys get any questions for Neil? I can sometimes we could be about 2 to 3, maybe even 5 seconds behind on chat.
I'm just seeing if there's any already in there. Already.
No, I just asked you that. Oracles Beyond says, having abilities a burden or gift?
It's how you work with it, Oracle. It's what you do with that gift. If you choose to, I mean, there's two sides to this question. People want to, I often hear people say, I don't want to be contacted by spirit. What if it's a negative spirit? What if it's this? What if it's that? What if it's demonic? Well, unless you watch too much movies and it's all about horror films and Freddy Krueger, then you're never ever going to deal with what you see in the movies, right? People say, oh, I don't want to do a spirit board. What if I take something home with me? Well, why would a ghost from a haunted castle of 1,000 years ago want to come all the way home with you and watch Jeremy Kyle all day long? It's there for a reason. And if they think that that is a communicational device and they're going to attract an attachment, well, a mobile phone's a communicational device, and we take pictures of ghosts on them. A spirit box, which goes through the frequencies of the radio, is a communicational device, and we hear spirit on it. And the spirit board, or the Ouija board as it's known as, is a communicational device. So why would only that be your burden? Spirit coming to you, you can switch off. You can ask spirit to leave you alone. Spirit doesn't do what people sometimes say it does, and it just pops up every now and then and bugs the life out of you and won't leave you alone and play tricks with you. And if it is, then I would want to ask, is it really spirit doing that, or is it a mental thing up here? And I say that with respect. I don't mean it any other way. But spirit is only what we are now, but now in the spirit world. All my dealings with spirits in the 30 years plus I've worked with it, I've never worked with anything other than a negative spirit. My spirit guide as my protector will allow me contact with the good-natured spirits from the higher side of life, and anything too negative, then he won't allow it through unless I ask for it to come through, because I want to work with it on the conditions we're working in the paranormal event. And you, as a person who can't hear or see your spirit guide, can still ask that spirit guide to do exactly that. Take it away. Stop that feeling I'm getting. Take that pain away from me. Your spirit guide can hear you. Just because you can't hear them doesn't mean they're not working for you. So you can command that anyway with the utmost respect, and it will go away. So if you think it's a negative, a lot of people actually think that the spirit they're dealing with is something negative when it's actually a loved one trying to get in touch with them. And a classic example of that, guys, is I've gone to someone's house who's alleged it's haunting, and they're rattling the drawers and they're making things move. And when I get there, I find an auntie and uncle and granddad he's there, and it's him doing all that because he can't get your attention. And now that you've got my attention, he can now let you know you've got his attention, and we all happy bunnies at the end of it. That's why they were making that noise. So don't believe the footsteps upstairs is demonic and the things moving around the house is something sinister. It's someone trying to get your attention for a reason and nothing else.
See, the way I would put that, Neil, is if you can imagine being at a party and there's, say, 30 people there, and you're trying to talk to people, not one of the persons actually making you, we're talking back to you, you're going to get frustrated why nobody's talking back.
And they do that, yeah. Spirit will get agitated and frustrated because it's took them that energy to get to where they are now to move things and make that contact. And we are not accepting it as spirit. We are not accepting it as a sign. And it actually takes a good medium to walk in there and introduce them to the auntie and uncle in spirit. Spirit children come back and forth all the time, whether they've set foot on this earth or not. They love to come back because they're still growing up in the spirit world, but they'll come back and show themselves when they were here on this earth plane, just like some of the olders do as well. So they'll say, no, it can't have been my thing. They passed away when they were 14. I say, yeah, but this child's coming back when this time of their life they're showing themselves was more memento, better memories, and they want to make you notice around this time. This is, you're more likely to remember them when you were in love with that person and doing things with them than when you were, or when they passed and they were in a darker place or going through an illness they don't want you to see, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why our loved ones always show themselves to me of a fit state of health. And I've had people say, no, they didn't look like that when they died. Things were falling off and they were gaunt and this was happening and that was happening. But why would they want to show themselves to you in that state? They want to. You will only remember them when they looked very pretty in that suit when they were coming to your wedding to give you away. And that's the most poignant part of your life. You'll always remember that person for. So they're showing themselves to me in that suit, in that time zone, in that timeline, should I say, of when you will go, oh yeah, I remember that quite well. And then the energy starts from there.
Exactly. Does anybody else have a question for Neil? But Neil, as you were talking about well, do you think that the spirits were, say, maybe they were happy at being 7 or being at 15-year-old, would they go back to being that age again because it was a happy memory for them?
They will show themselves at times of their life that you're more likely to remember them. And a classic example was, you're not going to want to remember them after a car crash and the last time you saw them on this earth plane. They're going to show themselves when they were fit and healthy, with all the illnesses not with them, when they didn't have that disease, when they didn't have that disfigurement. And it's only when I ask for validation that they might say, well, I lost my left arm. That's how they'll remember me. But we will see spirit as what we say ghosts in and around our home, but they'll show themselves in good health, because why would they show themselves as something out of a horror movie? Is forgive me for saying this, may be the case when they're past. You don't want to remember them as that, so they won't show themselves as that. Spirit children will grow up in the spirit world, and why they make that a point to me is because they show how old they are now, which allows the parent I'm speaking to take 15 years off that timeline and say, well, yeah, that's when they died 15 years ago. And they'll also show themselves to me at a younger age because there was something more poignant, significant in their life at that age that the mother will have more happy memories with than remember them in the darker days, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So, Neil, do you actually believe in haunted objects like dolls, chairs?
Yes, haunted might be one way of putting it, but I do believe that we're going back to energy now. Everything has energy built into it. From this watch, which was given to me by my wife, I mean, I treasure this. It's a very expensive thing. And let's say I wear it on my wrist until I die at the age of 99, and I leave it for my daughter. And then 15 years down the road, a medium comes to see my daughter, and the first thing he does, he says, "Have you got anything which belonged to someone?" And she pulls out this watch, which I loved, and I wear it every single day, and it's my favorite piece of thing I put on first. And this has got all my energy attached to it. And he using psychometry will handle this object and say, this object contains the energy of a gentleman who I believe to be your father. And he'll then make that connection with the watch and me, and my spirit would come forward, and then we'll talk about all that energy and make a better connection. So everything, because it's energy from the chair you sat in to the object on my wrist, is all retaining energy. It's the thermodynamics of science. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. So therefore, there'll always be an attachment to something, whether it be the place where we are now. We live in an area which was a lot of mines, a place I shop regular. I've seen miners walking past, but not in the shop, but walking through the shop, if that makes sense. And that was a man walking home at the end of his shift, carrying his bag and his lantern, and his candle had been blown out. But his residual energy was just doing what it did for the 30 odd years he spent in the mine. So yes, there'll always be an attachment to a place, an object, a doll. The dolls behind you, a classic example of one of them dolls was Lee Steer and David Barrett acquired a doll. They sent me a picture to it because it was alleged to be haunted, and they believed there was an attachment to it. So after numerous weeks, I'd connected to the energy which was attached to the doll. I asked for a name, and she gave me the name as Elizabeth. I also asked the history around the doll, and between my guide and the energy attached to the doll, they told me that a little child had died in the first few months of setting foot on this earth plane. Now, what the parents used to do back in the day is lay the dead out in the living room, and everyone came to view them. Well, they used to leave a doll with the child, if it was a child, and it was called a mourning doll. And I don't mean mourning as broken, but as in mourning, grieving doll. And it was left at that child. And not only was the energy of the child attached to this, because it was the only thing she ever possessed in life from setting foot on this earth plane and dying, but the mother's energy was attached to it as well. So we then filmed that show for Sky TV based on me naming the doll Elizabeth, and it was done out in Penrith in Cumbria, which went off for Showcase TV, and it was aired across the networks, not only here but in America as well. And it was called Broome Castle, and it was there was a big battle there, not only the battle but the battlement from one of the wars as well. So yes, her energy is still attached to that doll. The doll has adopted the name Elizabeth because that was the name given to us. And I believe Lee Steer, if he's watching this or if he stumbles across it in the future, would comment on what I've said regarding the energy attached to that doll. Elizabeth's energy, or Elizabeth being the doll, is very much alive and kicking. So yes, everything's got something attached to it. If it was once here on this earth plane and loved, then more than likely it would have that.
Yeah. Shimmer Soul has a question for you. What are your thoughts on the law of attraction and mediumship?
Well, my thoughts about mediumship is if you can get into it and work with spirit, then it's one of the best things to do. It's the biggest gift you'll get in life, other than birth and birth of your children. I'm not quite sure what you mean by law of attractions. If you want to be more specific on that, law of attractions in what we attract towards us, or can you read that a different way, Citizen?
I'm just trying to figure out how she's actually got it as. Are you meaning as the spirit's attraction?
Let's see if she can comment on that.
Mirror.
Just to let you know, guys, I can now see all your names in the comments there, and all what you've listened to and your comments on it. I really appreciate them comments. Thanks for dropping by and seeing me. I don't always get to see the comments because on a live stream you don't view them as you see them, but I've just jumped over onto YouTube to do that. Excuse me, to see that.
This is when you're the host, it's the way better because you can see the comments and everything on the one side.
Yeah. But on the StreamYard, there's no comments through there. It must be only on YouTube, is it?
Mm-hmm. I can see myself on the TV behind you as well. I can see myself.
Yeah. There we are.
I thought, have I got a double ganger in the back there or something?
That's my double conservatory out there, but it's so cold here in the northeast of England. I use it as my meditation room now. Me electronics, my hi-fis, my retro cassette tapes, audio cassette tapes, and LPs, if anyone knows what them are, all out there. And stick my headphones on, a bit of George Michael. He helps me meditate. The reason being is there's always an artist someone will connect to from adolescence onwards, and they become their go-to. George Michael was writing songs in his later life which actually fitted into the timeline of my early life. And you sometimes hear a song on the radio and you go, oh, that sounds like my life now. And we adapt that song as the timeline of when we were going through the joys, the love, the affairs, or the trauma of what the song's about. And what I found from first listening to his Faith album as a solo artist, right away through to his last album, everything he listened to, everything he wrote and published, it fitted into the timeline of my life, it did. So I could adapt to everything he'd written about.
Guys,
is she back on that? Is she?
Neil,
yeah.
It means if you think of a positive thought, positive things will happen. If you think negative.
Right. My wife is saying if you think of positive thoughts, will positive things happen, and if you think of negative things, will negative things happen. The laws of attraction. Right. On the basis of my wife's knowledge and your question, no, I don't believe we sow what we reap and we reap what we sow. What will happen whether we've thought of that or not. Like I said earlier on this evening, our path in front of us will always be the same path. And from time to time, we'll come to a crossroads and we'll say, right, do I take that way or that way, or do I carry straight on? And no matter which way we choose, we will always be going on the right path, influenced not only by our loved ones, but by our guides as well, because our destiny from start to finish will always be the same. And yes, we may take some what we think shortcuts on our journey and step off the timeline for a bit and back on and take on something else and move back to that path. We'll always do that. So if we start dealing with things which are darker than spirit, are we going to attract anything negative? I don't think so. Not ourselves, not at the level we deal with mediumship. If you got really deep into satanic things? Would you be bringing things home with us? I don't believe so. If you're only dealing your beliefs, and you have to remember some dark things which people worshipped in their day. As one good medium once said to me, Charlotte, they saw it as good. What we see as good as the good-natured spirits, the darkness things that they dealt with, they saw that as good because that was what their beliefs were in. So what might be bad for us may be good for another, and vice versa. So if we give out as much love, do we get it back? Yes, because people appreciate what we're doing in the first place. If we smile at someone in the supermarket and they smile back, classic example of laws of attraction. If we walk around hitting people, we're going to get beat up at the end of the day. So yeah, it does in a certain extent, but based on what you're doing to create the attraction, then yeah, depends on that theory. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my leg just went to sleep.
I do believe if we ask for things in life, we may be persuaded and given these things. A quick example of that, Noel Edmonds, after his career had finished in the past from the multicoloured swap shop, once asked the universal laws to bring me fame and fortune once again. I think it was more of a fame thing than fortune, because that'll come with it. And he received a message of some form from a media company, and then 15 to 1 came by. Was it 15 to 1 or something to do with the box thing? What was that box thing? Open the box.
Deal.
That's it, deal or no deal. And he took on that, and he's more known for deal or no deal now than he was for the multicoloured swap shop. And his beliefs in the power of the universe, and as she said, the laws of the attraction of the universe, then yeah, you have to remember the universe is energy. It was created by the Big Bang, which was an atom exploding, which created the energy like I've got in my room now. And what happened, and the universal thing happened. There's an excellent film which is my go-to, and I watch this film once a month. And it's, some of you will have heard of it. It was a 1997 film. John Travolta was the main character in it, and it's called Phenomenon. He wakes up one morning, it's his birthday, he's outside having a party, and something happens to him. Then all of a sudden he starts getting all these special gifts in life, from telekinesis and other things to things which we couldn't possibly do. It's got a sad ending to it, and I cry every time, and I'm not afraid to cry because I'm human and I'm full of love. But this film is called Phenomenon. John Travolta, 1997, is on the cover. He's there like that. He's moving things with his hands. I've got it saved on my hard drive in YouTube, paid film. It's worth watching. It'll just make you. It'll show you something which in the film, if you haven't seen it already, that not everything is what it seems to be, and that's the only teaser I'm giving you.
Yep. Hi, Angel. Any more question, guys? This is your chance to ask Neil. I thought I'd be getting about 110 questions at 1 minute here.
No, they're all listeners.
They're kind of a shy crowd tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Can you see that, Neil?
Helen Steele, I know this lady. Neil, what? Oh, she's just thanking me. Neil's the most genuine and honest, gifted medium you could ever connect with, and I feel privileged to call him a very dear friend. I've been on many investigations with him and Vicky. I'll pay you later. I'll send you a PayPal link. Yeah, Helen Steele is a person we met on Ghost Hunt. She came along to one of our events. She's one of the most angelic persons, and one of the many angelic persons I know on this planet, with a heart of gold. And we've been down to her neck of the woods, to the most haunted city of York, where she lives. But yeah, she's one of them people who loves everything paranormal, everything spiritual, and where possible, she's come along to many of our events. In fact, she was in the Old Nick video, which I released the other day again. She was the person stood in the doorway holding off the energies trying to enter the room.
I'm just going to put your links back in because I went back further up when we were doing the interview. Natasha was asking, are you on YouTube? So I was just, if she's still here, I'm going to put your links back in again if she wants to connect to you. So it's your YouTube channel and
then we've got GSI Paranormal as well, yes.
We were getting loads of questions before. Shane came in.
Let's nip up the questions. Shane Corbett once belonged to the GSI family. He's a very dear, good friend of mine. We chat daily. He's down in Yorkshire. I'm here in North Yorkshire. And there isn't a day which has gone by since we've met that we've spoke to one another. And my wife can confirm that. We once said to each other, we were probably man and wife in a previous life. I think he was the woman, of course. But I went down to Doncaster Airdrome to do an event down there. And Shane was hosting the event as a paranormal team. And I met him for the first time, and we were in an aeroplane hangar. And as soon as I walked up to him, my knees were really sore and hurting. And obviously, his energy was passing on this feeling to me. And straight away, I told him his knees, he was having troubles with them, and he was struggling. And then as he confirmed what I was saying, his energy opened up and started telling me more things. And we spoke in depth. And since then, he's a very sensitive person himself. I've worked with him, I've guided him, I've told him my ways of working, and I sometimes watch his videos and I hear my voice coming out of his, just like I hear Derek's voice coming out of mine, if that makes sense. So yeah, we really gelled together as man and wife, as we once called it. But yeah, there isn't a day which goes by that we don't chat here on Facebook, and it's only because of the pandemic going on that I haven't been down to see him on my travels, unfortunately. But he's doing good, and he's a good man, and he's got a good wife there, Debbie, and a good guy working alongside of him, Andrew. Beautiful Andrew, we called him.
Beautiful Andrew.
The good looking one, we said, yeah.
I was coming.
She's trying to push me through the doorway upstairs. Yes, that was right. What we did on that night with working with spirit is, although it was a negative place we were working in, or it'd seen a lot of negativity, spirit who are attached to a location will actually walk the route of that location as they did when they were here on this earth plane. And this is why ghosts don't zoom through the walls like we see in Hollywood unless there was a doorway once there. So what I like to do is working with spirit and using energy is ask spirit to move that person or allow the person to feel the energy of spirit, because I can spend all night long saying there's a ghost there, and he's called David, he's called Eric, and he's called Colin. But on face value, you have to believe me that. So I have to bring more to the table and bring the evidence where the individual person who's with us wants to either see it, hear it, or feel it. So one of the good things we do is we use our human form, our body, to block the doorway and allow spirit to manipulate that person in the doorway. She had weird sensations on her legs, if I remembered rightly, and people were seeing light anomalies going through her legs at the same time. And this was, although the camera footage is green on the night vision cameras we were using, people were still seeing them light anomalies in the darkness of the room.
Yeah, as you were talking about anomalies there, now, you know, some people might not know the difference between dust particles and actual orbs. As orbs, well, dust just goes straight across the screen. But actual orbs, if they can go into like a triangle shape, and if you say go in a circle shape straight away, and they do it.
If you ask a light anomaly, which I like to call them, change shape or form, and it does, then it's unexplainable. So it falls under the category of the paranormal. I'm not a great believer in what most call orbs, but however, we have caught some unexplainable orbs or light anomalies, as I would call them, where in the environment we were in, i.e. so many miles underground in an airtight nuclear shelter, there shouldn't have been any form of insect or anything else, especially dust, because it was the ventilation system wouldn't allow that. And we had, when I was working with the most haunted painting, the Anguish Man, when asked on video, and it's on the YouTube channel, can you please show yourself as a light anomaly? The painting, which is stood on an easel, the Anguish Man face is there with his mouth wide open, and all of a sudden a bright orb flies out of his mouth in a linear line and off. Now, the footage shows behind the picture, in front of the picture, and nothing travels from behind and through or at the side of this easel with a picture on, but this light just shoots directly from the mouth area of David, which is the name of the Anguish Man, and shoots off. That is on the YouTube channel, paranormal side of it, Anguish Man, and that was in Kidderminster in the Drakelow tunnels.
Yeah. I think Helen was talking about the helicopter at Sunderland Air Museum.
Yes, we caught the pilot in the helicopter. His face is quite prominent in the picture. This helicopter, as Helen said, is 50 tons of metal, and it was initially sat on flat tires. As I sat in it and asked Spirit to work with me and give me evidence, the pendulum, or should I say the winch, which would have lifted people up from a boat or a cliff edge or anything it was using its rescue services for, started to swing back and forth. Now, even when we tried to shake the helicopter, the weight and the flat tires would not allow it to move whatsoever. And this helicopter was starting to vibrate. If I remember rightly, the K2 meter, the EMF meter, was off the scale as well. And obviously, as I climbed out and walked to the front of the helicopter, I took my phone out and I took 5 pictures. The third picture had smoke curving over the bonnet of the helicopter. The second one had the smoke drifting off the helicopter, and the fifth picture, which was the third one in the sequence, had the pilot right up to the windscreen like that, or the windshield like that. And I've still got them 5 pictures as me evidence of one after each other, where it only appears in one of them.
It still makes you must go wow that knowing that you've caught them though.
Yeah, it's. I mean, people always say, "What are the best things you should take on your ghost hunt?" Well, yourself, because you're more sensitive than any camera out there. And if you don't see it, you'll hear it. And if you don't hear it, you'll smell it. And this is one of your many senses which you would use as a sensitive person. So therefore, that and a good quality camera phone. I mean, if you take a digital SLR out there, Canon, Sony or Nikon, time it's attempted to focus and dealt with the light, you'll have missed what you're hearing. If you get your box standard camera phone, it'll shoot enough pictures rapidly to capture whatever's out there, what you're seeing. Do you sense more paranormal activity in graveyards or places where death and accident happened? I don't believe graveyards are as haunted as what people say, because that isn't the place of death. It's a place where they've been laid to rest. However, that doesn't mean spirit would not return to that location. One, to watch over himself, to see if his watch is still on his wrist, which he was buried with, or if a loved one is buried with him in that location. It's not the most active for activity, and as you probably see from watching some of these paranormal groups going out there in the dead of night lately, asking for spirit to show themselves. Yes, spirit might be there. It's not a residual place because it didn't once actively go around the location working like they would in a castle. Is it intelligent? More than likely, but you're very hard to come by activity in a graveyard. But yes, it does happen, but you'd be better off going to the location where this person passed. And not just because they passed there, but I mean, if someone died in the bedroom, then you need to be at the house and not just the bedroom, because this house would have been a place they much loved. Just like psychometry, it's a environment, part of their ether where they spent a lot of time in with the loved ones, laughing, crying, sleeping, celebrating, and all them amazing things they did in their lifetime. So you're more likely to find spirit. And statistically, the most haunted location in the world is your bedroom, because more people connect and hear and see spirit in the bedroom than they do anywhere else on the planet. The statistics say.
That's where you get the most people saying, "I've seen a figure at the bottom of the bed."
That's right. And the reason being is we're almost at that hypnotic state we've talked about, and the part where we're just to say coming into par with their frequency and we're going to connect. A lot of people also say, "Oh, I hear footsteps on the landing whilst I'm in bed. I hear children running about. I hear things on the stairs." I was once told of my spirit guide that when spirit comes back to look after us, act as a guardian or protect us, then the most best place for them to stand that they find is in front of the bedroom door where the loved ones are. So as spirit still uses doorways on this earth plane as they do through their veil across to here, a spirit or protector will stand on the landing, because how many doors are on that landing with all their loved ones behind them? Does that make sense? Kids in that room, the mother and father in that room, and the teenager in that room. I'll stand here on the landing, and if anything negative from the universe was coming to attack them, then I'm here to show it away.
Yeah. I'm trying to get Shrimp's question to bit more precise. He just got, "Are you friends with that psychic who lived in Gallipar with that doll?" It could be absolutely anything in that question.
Are you friends with the psychic who lived at Gibraltar with a doll? If that, are you talking about Lee Steer? Am I friends with him if we're talking about the same person with a doll called Elizabeth? I know of Lee Steer. I've worked with Lee Steer. I don't follow Ghosts of Britain's Facebook page, but Lee Steer is... You are sorry?
It says it's Brian Holloway.
Oh yes, I know you mean now. Brian Holloway. He was in the video of the fellowship halls. I'm not friends with him. I've worked with him. I've spoke to him many a time on a ghost hunt, but I'm not one of his friends, as in we communicate from time to time. No.
Does that answer your question, Shrimp?
I think he events a lot of the ghost apps on Google Play. There's quite a few apps which he's made, and they're up there for free.
Mm-hmm. See, when I do my investigations, I notice that some of the apps that you pay for are not actually worth the money, because I've noticed they can actually constantly repeat in what they're saying.
If they're under $2 or less, then you know you're just buying something for entertainment purposes only. If they're free, then use them, try them out. Project Reveal did some good apps lately. They're available on Google Play. Brian did quite a few apps. Some he was using in the fellowship halls. They work really well with the environments. I would recommend that you Google search Brian Holloway or David in Project Paranormal. Their apps are free and the regular update them. I've got some of Project Paranormals on my phone now. We've used them. I haven't had to use mine because we've been in the environment where everyone's got the same app, so they've used theirs. But yeah, they do work. When we were at Scotland on the leg of the tour we were filming for, that Project Paranormal app has no, it's just an English language and no other language in there, no accents, no Northern Scottish or anything like that. But yet in the Scottish part of the filming, all the voices come through the spirit box on the app in Scottish, in a Scottish accent. When we were in the northern area of England filming, all the voices come through in a northern accent. So you can't dictate which bank of voices you're going to use for the area you're working in. And that to me is validation that it could only be the voices of the dead from that location you should hear. And if you're in Ireland, then it should be an Irish accent. If you're in Scotland, then it should be a Scottish accent, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. What was Helen saying? We were at Sunderland Air Museum walking around the premiere of Aircraft Hangar. Myself, Michael Smith, heard away up above us the distant clear sound of propellered aircraft. Or aircraft.
Yeah, fat fingers. Yeah, you've got fat fingers, Helen. So when we were up filming in the Sunderland Air Museum, which is a great place if you ever get a chance to visit it, just off the A19 in Sunderland near the Nissan car plant. It's a museum. It's very cheap, and it's even cheaper to hire for an event. The old aircraft field of Sunderland was the first place the Battle of Britain took off from. All the fighters for the Battle of Britain took off from the Sunderland airfield, and it wasn't called the Sunderland airfield back then. I'm not sure what it was, but that's where they all took off from. Now, whilst we came outside, well, actually, we were in one of the hangars, and the only way I could describe it, it sounded like a tiger moth. Them double wingspan aeroplanes from yesteryear, the 1930s or earlier, with the dual, you see the wing walkers walking along, and it was a mechanically propelled engine, and the sound like a lawnmower, but coming from the skies. And we all stepped outside and looked up, but one, it wasn't an airfield anymore. Two, something of that criteria wouldn't and shouldn't be flying around at that time of the night because of Newcastle Airport being very close, and it didn't allow small airplanes like that. And we couldn't debunk it. We like to debunk it, as Vicky would always say. everything we find, we spend 99% trying to debunk it, and 1% it's paranormal, and it's one of them things, that unexplainable phenomena we heard, which we can only say it must be paranormal because there was no other explanation for it.
Yeah. Sorry, I was getting a tickly cough there when you were talking. It felt like somebody was at me. Do you guys have any more questions? Are you still okay, Neil, or do you need a break?
You've got all night with me, mate. I'm okay. Just anything else you want to pull out the bag, please do. I'll be driving and listening. Someone's listening on the phone as they're driving. I hope you're keeping your eyes on the phone because you don't want to see my ugly face. Let's have a look. Brian Holloway, yes, got that. YouTube's shared. Shrimp Shack, I like that. Helen Steele, lovely Anne Phoenix. Anne Phoenix was like a mother to me, but she still is, bless her. She works at the local spiritual church, and I've worked there with her many a time. We once did a paranormal event there. Now it's a spiritual church, and we only ever get people coming afar to read on the rostrum to the people who were sat there. So we decided that, I've just got a big draft come right away through the room and all the doors are shut. So
before that, when the lights were flashing and your camera was actually freezing for a couple of seconds as well.
Which big draft come right away through and blew through me there. So I'll keep on the same subject. Anne Phoenix, I said to Anne Phoenix, why don't we do something a little bit different? It'll be okay, but we'll do a night of mediumship and paranormal within the spiritual church. So we took all our equipment there, and me and Vicky invited everyone to come, and we did a night of paranormal, and the lights were on most of the time, and we showed everyone what we did as a paranormal group and what I did as a medium whilst working with paranormal. Now, this place will get around 32 max of people sat on the seats for a mediumship night, and this night, that many people turned up. The local residents were complaining because they couldn't park outside their own houses. Might be just someone passing through, I'm being told. There was so much vehicles there. Even the local police wardens were coming to ask why, what was the reason, because it was disrupting the road it was. So it was just good to say that I was the only person who actually did a sellout in that location, and I still hold the record for having the most people in the spiritual church at any one time. There's someone trying to get me attention. I can't pick up who it is.
As soon as you said that, your screen froze again.
Yeah. I don't know where the connection is. I'm not getting anything I'm looking down the names, but looking at most of these names aren't real names when it comes to Shrimp Shack, unless he was christened that. See if I'm with.
Helen was just saying that she can't wait to go back again to the cracking place to investigate. We've got a question for Angel. She says, probably already answered this, but what's your favourite thing about being a medium?
The trousers are cheaper for mediums, and extra large, they're a bit expensive. No, my favourite mediumship thing is having a gift to give people closure, because I lost 3 people to spirit in 2011. My mum passed away, my sister followed straight afterwards, and my father then passed later on. in a course of 6 months. And I'd spent a lifetime talking to people about sorrow, loss, and other things, but I could never fully sympathize and empathize with people because I hadn't had that loss myself. And I think that unless you lose something yourself, you can't understand the full logic of what grief and bereavement is. And we've all lost our pets and our aunties and uncles and our grands and granddads. But, and forgive me for saying this, but some are more close to some people than others. But until you lose the most valuable thing in your life, your sister, your mum and dad, within a period of 6 months, I went to a place where I thought I would never connect to spirit again, and I'd never see the light of day. Even the doctor offered me, I forget the name of the tablets now, that a sedative tablet, what they're for depression tablets. And I said, no, I'm going to fight this myself. I'll deal with it. And a guy who's now in spirit, Paul Smith, he was my go-to. He turned up every other day and he said, right, tell me about your mum and dad, tell me about your sister. And I spent a sentence or two trying to talk about them without breaking down and not being able to talk anymore. But then days later, I'd spend, if she wants to go out, just send her out. Then weeks later, I'd get to the end of the sentence. And then months later, I could talk about a paragraph of their lives. And within so many months, that's just my dog going for walking it out the back. And then over a period of time, I found that the more I spoke about the losses and the grief and darkness I'd suffered, the better person I was. And only then did I realize that as much as I sat there and told other people about the spirit loved ones coming to connect, I never really knew the person on the other side of the table, what they really were going through. And only then did it make me a better medium. Then I got great pleasure answering all them what ifs for that person, because there was a lot of questions saying, well, are they still mad at me in heaven? I never got to say goodbye. Will they be upset? I wasn't there when they passed. Will they know? And I could answer most of them questions, which I couldn't before. And this allowed me to not only tell my experience and how I dealt with it as someone who was grieving and grieving for a major loss in their lives, but I could also understand what they'd went through as well. And the key things I found which gave me closure, I then gave that in a reading as well. And this made that person a better person. Well, like my post from this morning and of my mum, dad and my sister on my timeline, we'll always have that section of our life and that hole in our heart, which will never ever be filled by anyone we meet on this earth plane who can fill that. And we can all have our mother-in-laws and our father-in-laws who act like a motherly and fatherly figure for us, but they'll never replace their shoes, they'll never fill their boots. And it's until you have that understanding of that loss and that mega hole in that person's life and how you're going to look to get over that, which I've managed to do, then I've used my techniques and my experiences of my tragic times of my life to help them. And the reading didn't just stop there. It was, that's my phone number, that's my email message, that's my account, that's my mailbox, that's my message box. I will answer your questions every time you answer. Maybe not straight away, but I will help you. And a lot of people come through on Facebook and they said, Neil, and I dedicated that to a person this morning because she's with her father right now and he's on end of life. And she turned round and said, how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to get my head through this and not have my head battered with the grief and trauma of it. And after speaking with her, I sat down and put what I dealt with and how I dealt with it and how I saw it afterwards. And that is on my Facebook page, dedicated to a person called Vicky Richards. And I just hope that when she gets to that point in her father's end of days, then she'll be able to come back to me knowing that I've given good information and helped others in the same way, which they do come back. You know, you go to the garage, you get your car fixed, he does an excellent job, he was cheap, I'm going back there. I went to that medium, he told me all about it, he explained and he was articulate in all what he said, and he told me this is how you should deal with it and I'm going to help you, and I'm going to go back to him for that advice. That's what makes a good medium. That is the biggest gift of all. I don't want wings when I leave here. I'm broad enough. I can't get through doorways now, but I know there's a place in my heaven when I finish here for, if you want to call it God's work, which I've done, spirit work, which I've done. There'll always be somewhere for me, even if it's starting at the bottom like I did in the first place and work my way up again. I don't mind. I've achieved everything, and this reverts back to where do you want to go from here? Well, if I've accomplished everything now, like we started 2 hours 21 minutes ago, if I don't achieve anything else now where I'm at in life, with everything I've got in life and everything I've done in life, I'm happy. I've done everything else. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, as you were talking about there, Neil, about you missing, I think it was missing your mum. I think it was you were talking about. Now, I want to say that as people that know that they're ready to go over to the other side, they don't want that person to be there. So that's why as soon as that person leaves, they might pass over and they might feel guilty about why they weren't there. They don't want you to feel guilty. They just don't want you going through that situation.
It's commonly known from my work that spirit will wait till the loved ones leave the bedside before they take their final transition, their final breath. They don't want. I mean, my brother didn't go to see my mum when she was in the memorial chapel of rest because he only wanted to remember her as she was when she was in physical body. People will say, I'm just going to nip home, I'm going to walk my dog and I'll be straight back. I know you can hear me, give them a kiss on the cheek and they'll leave. And no sooner they got in the car and started the engine, that person will take that opportunity to slip away, and they'll do it because death has already started. The transition has already started. Even though the heartbeat is beating and there's a pulse and the machine is doing what it's doing, that person has already started. And this is why it's called a transition. It's changing there. And that person is just as conscious because they're connecting to the spiritual side of the being now. They're becoming the spiritual form. And they might not have moved for days and days or been in an induced coma or medically disabled for some reason. But that person believes me that they know you've left that room and they're not going to leave you with that final breath and that last kiss on the cheek and the tears. And they'll know that you as a person will find it stronger to know that they slipped away peacefully whilst you were out the room. And they do it on purpose. They do. And then you'll get someone like my dad who'll stay there all night long and think, I'll make you sweat. You can wait until at midnight hour you before I'll go. And yeah, some will hang on but the transition has already started. And remember, guys, if you never got to say that goodbye at that point of transition, there's no goodbyes anyway. There's no goodbyes in the spirit world. That spirit is still at your side now, as they were when they were here on this physical plane. When they were walking this earth plane, they're still doing it now, but they're on the second part of their journey in life, and it's the spiritual side of it. So you can still speak and talk to them, and they can still hear you loud and clear. unfortunately, not all of us can see him all the time. But they'll hear you all the time. And whether your prayer's up in your head or out loud, they can answer that prayer.
Shimmer Show's got another question for you. Do you ever work true crime cases or missing person cases with your gift?
I would love to. If I had the opportunity to do it, I would do it all the time. I would really have some, how can I put it? I would really take comfort and like helping others, not only the law enforcement agencies, but people who want to put it to bed and find out where they died, where they've been buried, and so they can recover the body and give them a proper send-off. Unfortunately, there isn't any law, or how can I put it, there's no courts, Crown Court, Magistrates Courts, or any governing body who will stand up in court and accept what you say as fact if you tell them that the dead person told you so. There's no way I could stand in court in front of a jury to say that was the guy who murdered him, that's where he buried her, and this is where you can find the body. And when they say, how did you come of your factual information? I say, my spirit guide who died 2,000 years ago told me. You can see where that would go. So although you see it on some TV channels, I don't believe it's true, because the law enforcement and the judicial system can only work on fact. And when you have to give evidence in a court of law as either a police officer or a witness, it has to be factual evidence. You can't give hearsay information, or you can't say, well, Bob told me next door. It has to be factual evidence, or that person has to be given evidence as well. So there's no solicitor, defense or prosecution or magistrate or judge who can accept someone heard voices in the head and they're going to act on that information. So it can never happen. And what we see on TV has to be for entertainment purposes only. So when you see these mediums with some law enforcement agency in some Kansas City in a brown old 1980 something police vehicle driving around, and there's a narrator talking all the way through the program, and the medium's taking them to all these different spots. It can only be for entertainment purposes only, or once you give that evidence, they can't do anything with it. So it can be done, unfortunately. And would you like me to point a finger at you and say you murdered someone because a ghost told me? It's not going to happen, is it?
But wouldn't it make you think, though, Neil? You know how when, if you ever go to court, they always say to you, do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? They want to say, well, how do you believe in
the truth has to be based on factual evidence. I just know from my previous lines of work what you can take as evidence and what can be evidence. And I certainly know that there isn't a court in the land or country or world that I know of who would take non-factual evidence as gospel and convict someone on the basis of that.
But isn't there actual police officers that do work with sidekicks, though?
Not to my knowledge. I think it would be frowned upon. Either the medium be, I don't know. It's a funny subject. This there might be, but how can a police officer stand up in court and say that a person who tells me he has the ability to speak to dead people? And I know it sounds, I'm mocking myself now, but how can a police officer stand up in a court of law wherever he is and say a person who has the ability to speak to dead has told me who murdered the person, where they're buried? Yes, they may dig that person up, but you'll get someone like Randall saying it was a fluke, and it was just like, he dug him up, and it was a fluke that. Well, in fact, the medium would probably get arrested, being the more likely person to have killed that person because he knew everything about him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How did you know that they were dead there? Prove that a dead person told you, and you knew more about that person than the actual police did. So therefore, you're number one suspect.
Yeah. What's that Jackie saying? I work in a retirement facility. A lot of people tell me they want to pass, listen to them, respect their rights, but I find it hard to hear. How should I take this?
It's a point in our lifespan, in our timeline on this earth plane, that we've done everything, we've accomplished everything. All our youngsters have grown up, and the big boys and girls now, and they're capable of looking after themselves. They know that they haven't got the energy to go on anymore, and they just want to give up. And my dad did that after the loss of my mum and sister. He didn't have the will to live. He let himself go, and he'd spent 50 years with the woman he loved, and all of a sudden she was taken away from him months earlier. So it was at that point where, what else was there here on this earth just to grow old, lose more teeth, and have more aches and pains? Everyone was okay. Everyone had grew up around him, and no one had any troubles, and there was no one dependent on him anymore as a dependent. And I think sometimes in our spiritual self, we know when we've had enough and we want to go. And these people who've been left in these retirement facilities, nursing homes, whatever you call them, it could be just the reject of the family not wanting to care for him anymore, take care of him, or it could be they've done everything they could possibly done, been to every four corners of the world, and they've smoked the last packet of cigarettes. Now is the time to call it a day. Just let me go. It could be just something like that. It's hard. I would find that hard, dealing with end of life people and people who can't, unfortunately, look after themselves in that status. But yeah, it's there's nothing we can do. We can't help them to go. We can only just make their life as happy as possible whilst they're spending the last years' lives with us. That's all we can do. Yeah.
Sorry, I had to leave there for a quick second. I had to go.
That's okay. Wish you could help Claudia Lawrence Neal, who went missing in York. She just lived up the road from me. It's a dreadful mystery, and too many of us presumed dead. I mean, I would quite happily go to that location, to everything connected to it, and then see what I could pick up. The problem I would have is you're opening a can of emotional worms by contacting the people who are connected to her. Her parents may have wanted to put it to bed and just accept what's happened. Do they believe in my type of people? Do they believe we have ability to connect to the spirit world or a higher side of life? And if that is the case and we could do that, then why is she dead in the first place? Why hasn't God stepped in and protected her from day one? So it's a thing. You can go and learn a history lesson from that location on what actually went, whether it be a murder scene or a haunted castle or a haunted object, but there's not much more we can do, unfortunately. It's other than cause more emotions and bring the grieving and bereavement side of things right back up to the surface again, where it's like my mum said, don't ever walk up to someone and say, I've got a little boy here with you now, and he's called Thomas, and I feel he's connected to you. She said, because you could change that man's life forever. And I asked, what did she mean by that? And she said, well, let's put it another way. 10 years ago, that was an alcoholic, and he ran down Thomas and he's took 10 years of his life to get back on his feet and put it all behind him and learned from what he did. And after his mental breakdown, he's only back to the level he's managed to get to. And all of a sudden you walk up and say, oh, by the way, the dead person you killed 15 years ago called Thomas is walking beside you. I mean, you're going to cause another mental breakdown and ruin a person's life. Let them know who you are, they'll come to you. Yeah, the family are very religious and wouldn't accept it. It's sad, but we're not supermen, we're not super women. If God wanted us to stop all these harmful things, if there has to be a reason why things happen. A lot of it is because there's a lot of negative and bad people out there, but there's only so much you can do. You can only rescue so many people from a sinking ship before you can put any more on a lifeboat. And we can only put that word out there that we should never walk alone, talk to strangers, or cross the road without looking. We've drummed it into our siblings, our loved ones, our children, since the day they set foot on this earth. And unfortunately, we can only pray that our highest side of life does not allow it to happen to our loved ones, and everyone else prays the same to theirs. It's just very unfortunate, but we can't change the laws, how things work on this earth plane. Is it part of our test? Is it part of our classroom? Are people put on this earth plane from there to there, and when they go, they're going to cause major trauma in that household? But that's part of their learning curve, that they have to lose someone to make them better people, and then they then pass that on to someone else who helps more people. I honestly don't know. Life unanswered questions. It's like saying, why did Dracula have a pattern in the center of his hair when he couldn't see himself in mirrors anyway? I mean, we just can't answer them questions. We can't answer. It's one of them things. I'm very sad, yeah.
Definitely. Helen says, what about your experience with Connecticut and the Connect device?
You've seen it in action yourself, Helen. The Connect and the connections with it is what people use to dance in front of the gaming console, and it maps out the body and then projects that onto the screen for the in-game play. Now, we found out through some people who know more about tech than others that we can always use this for our ghost hunts as well. It will phonetically, it was genetically map out people. Sorry, I'm being distracted by his spirit here. I'm trying to talk, but the yakking in my ear, and it's someone I can't connect to, and I believe it's the person who's messing with the light earlier. That ice cold blast is with me now. They're not connected to me. I don't believe they're connected to this chat. They're just playing tricks with my energy. So I'm going to ask for this person to be removed by my side, please, Phil, if you can take him away and then allow me to speak. Thank you. Yeah, it's a great device. We can map out the energy of spirit, how the logistics and the intelligence side of it works with the technology and spirit. I'm not quite sure. I'm not into that side of it, but it's been proven that we can show phenomena on a screen, and it can map out the image of a stick-like figure, which is the only way it would work on a human being as well. But it will also show paranormal activity where you're in a room, you're talking to spirit, you're communicating with spirit, and all of a sudden on the Connect device, it'll show another figure. A lot of TV programs have used it. The most famous ones is Zach Bagans with his Ghost Adventurers, and they've used it a lot. They've asked it to do certain things when spirit showing himself themselves, and on command, this figure has actually on command done things what they've asked it to do. So yes, it does work. It's worked for us. Shane Corbett will tell you about the dog which we had at the Sunderland Air Museum, and then it laid down on the floor. That was the figure it was mapping out, and one of our guests laid with it and stroked it. Although it wasn't physically there, he kind of stroked the area it would have been, and then it got up and walked off. And we then later found out that the museum was haunted by 2 dogs, a black Labrador and a German Shepherd, which we later connected to as well. So yeah, it's an amazing piece of kit. It's your Swiss Army knife of ghost hunting. It should be in everyone's toolbox, really. One of them.
Love it. That's my last investigation I did. It was a cemetery, and it was on one of the park benches.
Yeah.
A figure sitting, and people were in the chat saying, "Oh, it's just the figure of the bench that's catching." So what I did is says, "Can you put your hand up and just wave?" And
it
did the same thing. But I might SLS camera for what you use. Mine's is this one.
All right. Yeah, I think Northern Ghost Hunters are using something like that. It's got the Connect on the front battery pack, and then the tablet.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
Tablet. The battery's got the side, and
yeah, they're using something like that as well. Nice. I wish we had a setup with like that. All we've got is the laptop, the Connect, and then obviously a tripod, which isn't portable. But we would only take it to a location where we know we've got power. We can plug both items in, and they're not going to get stolen from the location. It's a secure place. But yeah, amazing piece. Like I said, it's the Swiss Army knife of any ghost hunter's paranormal box. It should be there. Unfortunately, they bring out all these gadgets, but they come to an extreme price to put them all together. I remember buying the Ovilus some years ago, and £179 back then was a lot of money. But I think they're selling for a lot more. I don't think they make them now, the Ovilus 3, but they're selling for, they're like Bitcoins on eBay now. They're selling for fortune. Yeah.
I mean, the other equipment that I do use is SB7 as well.
Yeah.
App and that as well.
I prefer that than the SB11. It's a much better kit.
Normally, I hope that doesn't sound sad when I say this, but normally when I'm investigating kids and that, I use one of my, this is called a REM pod Teddy.
Yeah,
so near that flashes and makes alarm sounds.
Yeah. That's a great device to have. Trigger object, especially in like an asylum or children's home, things like that, where spirit children would see that and want to run to it as a physical toy in their world.
I mean, you don't actually nobody needs to get a really expensive equipment to do that. You can actually even just get like a small kid's ball. The spirits will still play with that as well.
Which we've done, yeah, the flashy ones that I can remember down at the ropery in Hull, the old rope factory, we'd put the flashing rubberized balls on the floor and asked them to manipulate the lights there. And although the balls never moved, the lights were going off on command. I think Shane, that's what it, yeah, that's the ones, yeah. Yeah, amazing piece of kit. Yeah. Cheap.
Really cheap as well to get. Everybody can afford their ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I probably got more equipment than anybody else, but
mine's just gone up all in the loft area. It's we're at that point in our enthusiasm that the pandemic is going to continue, and we might as well just store it out of the way whilst we're putting our house together, because it's fairly new. We've moved into it, and it's less items to be climbing over. And the loft is a room anyway, so we've just put everything we're not going to use paranormal wise for the next foreseeable future until things change and we can get out. I mean, we could do something here, but there's nothing paranormal here other than this spirit who was just left. This is a farmer's field and a caravan site before it was this new housing estate. So I can't see anything but residual energy passing through, if anything. But yeah, you have to be in an active spot to be wanting to be doing it in your own home, unless you've got toys and dolls and things like that which have the energy attached to it. Then there's no reason why you can't.
I do feel like I do have spirits around me all the time. I'm not going to too much detail into this, but recently, just like a couple of days ago, my natural neighbour actually passed.
Yeah.
And I kind of had to go in and check on him. It was me actually found him.
Uh-huh.
Now, when I was in there, I did feel like a cold breeze go past me, so I got a feeling like he was still there, and I don't know if he was just going into the transaction to the other side.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. I often find when people speak to me as the transition has just passed, I always say to them, like I said before, you're going to get them signs this week, next week, and the week after, where your light bulbs are going to be popping, your lights are going to be flickering on and off, things which have worked forever and a day are going to stop. And that is spirit, your neighbour, your friends, your loved ones are going to let you know they're thanking you. It's their way. The energy is still really strong because they're taking that transition into spirit, and they're going to have max amount of energy to mess and pop your light bulbs. And I always hear it. People will come to me and say, my mum passed the other week, and since then we've had things kind of going on around the house, light bulbs popping, things which worked, wouldn't work, TVs on and off. I said, it'll just be her letting you know that she's still around you. She's taken a transition, and she'll keep in touch. It's something they do quite often, an awful lot. But then on the same note, when spirit come back and try and get your attention, and you believe you've got poltergeist activity in the home, and they're doing all of that, it's in my field of work, I've only ever found it to be a loved one trying to get the attention. I've yet to come across a negative spirit who's throwing objects and children and dogs around the room yet. But I do blame the TV world for the majority of what we think happens and believes happen. If you watch Paranormal Activity enough times, you believe you're going to hang your foot out the bottom of the bed and get dragged out of the room. But it was a movie made just for entertainment purposes only. And it's like clickbait. You have to create that fear. The unknown of what's going to happen next creates the fear, which sells the movie. And going to the word fear only comes from the unknown. And people often say to me, if I haven't been asked already in the chat, is there anything you fear about or what you do? Well, no, because I know everything I ever deal with is only going to be someone who walked on this earth plane. So what's it to fear? Every tunnel I turn down when I'm on a ghost hunt, I've got my spirit guide with me telling me what's around the next corner. The only thing he doesn't tell me is if there's a low pipe and I bang my head on it. But that's an instant thing anyway. Yeah. When we were children and we used to switch our lights off, we used to run and dive on the bed because we thought a monster might have come from under the bed and grabbed our legs. But that was our biggest fear. But if we looked under the bed first or saw the legs off the bed, we didn't have to fear there was anything underneath it. So, and because we didn't know, we feared it.
I mean, I've dealt with people that's believed that the house has got paranormal in it just because, like, they see shadows at night time at the window or certain figures in the room, but it could be of a jacket even hanging up in a doorway, and because it's pitch black.
Yeah, it's spirit will show itself in the earliest form of manifestation as light. We will see it in our peripheral vision as shadows and movement. As it materializes, it will show itself as an orb, as a light anomaly. Normally find it moving in a linear line across the room as a solid object, not zigzagging like a dragonfly or an insect. And it does move from objects to objects or persons to persons. That's what I found in the past. some people will send me videos, and the children are running wild, and the video and them run around the room, and they say, look, a spirit's following them all over. And as much as I say you need a Dyson vacuum cleaner and a good dusting, I don't think spirits within there. They're just kids. If you go up to a pillar and bang your hand hard on it, you're going to get 1,000 spirits floating around your room, and you just need a good dust catcher.
I mean, Neil, if there's one group of people would you like to work to, would you have liked to work with Warrens?
Who, sorry?
The Warrens. When's the couple that's got the Annabelle doll?
Oh, Lee and what's her name? Lindsay.
No, it's Lorraine. Warrens, the Warrens.
Oh, have they got the Annabelle doll now?
Yeah, they
Oh,
had.
I'm getting mixed up. I'm thinking of Elizabeth. Any person with any haunted objects, I would drive the end of the country and back, and love to work with them in an ideal world, if we're allowed to. I mean, the spirit world and the paranormal world blows me away every time. I learn something new every time I connect to spirit. Not one reading's the same as the last one, and not one ghost is the same as the other. And working with the individual item, from trigger objects to haunted items as of such, it's a new history lesson for me. It's a new way, a new spirit from a different time on the timeline of life, and every single bit of it is fascinating. So if anyone's watching this now, or they stumble across it and watch it later, and you have something you would like me to read from or work with use, whether you be a paranormal company, an event company, wanting a medium for the night, or you just want to sit down in front of the TV like this and do something like this where we work with an object, then I would drive to the end of the country and back to do that with you, because it's a learning curve for me. It's experience with a different spirit, and it's the thing I'm most fascinated, other than eating. It's the second best thing I enjoy.
I mean, as I say, I know I did investigations myself, but that's the people I would love to work with was the Warrens. But I know they're past now. But the male Warren he was a demonologist, and at most of the investigations that he caught things in, he always used to take objects back home to his museum.
Right, I see. I'm not sure if I know who they are. The name rings a bell, but I just don't know if I know of him.
No.
Yeah, and didn't they give the doll to the Haunted Museum?
No, they've got their own haunted museum.
Ah, right.
It was Ed, that was the male. It's Ed and Lorraine Warren, that's it.
I tell you the truth, I don't think I know of him. I mean, I know of him, but I haven't given it much attention. That was the original Annabelle doll, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I know everybody says that they've got the Annabelle doll, but they don't realise it's a complete different doll altogether.
Yeah.
They've worked with Zach Bagans in the past. Yeah. I think Zach's got quite a lot of stuff in his museum as well. He's got like a old chair and things like that as well.
Yeah, even quite a lot of things. Even the VW camper where that mass murderer killed all his victims in. That's one place I'd love to go. One is to meet Zach Bagans, just to take him off my bucket list, and two, to the Haunted Museum. Another place I want to go to is Auschwitz, because my daughter went there and she said from start to finish, you walk around the gas chambers and the location, and she couldn't help but cry all the way around because of what she was picking up on the trauma and the energy of the place, which goes on to tell me that she's going to be sensitive later on in life. But there was so much which happened in one location. You can't, even if you're not sensitive, you can't not walk around there and be affected. Obviously, as a medium, you're going to feel that bit more, you're going to see that bit more, and potentially you're going to connect that little bit more. And it's something on my bucket list, which I want to do at some point in my youth.
Definitely interesting.
We're coming on the 3-hour mark now. I don't know what your record is for the longest live stream.
Oh, mine's is 8 hours, but I'm not going that.
Really? Well, no.
They're just talking about the doll anyway. So what we'll do is finish this anyway, because I'm dying for a drink.
Yeah, I've got a few other things I need to do in an early start in the morning anyway. And I know my dog's getting restless now because she's been away from me so long. Being a Labrador, she's a man's dog, and she knows I'm down here talking, so she's getting excited. I can hear the creaking floorboards. So before you do your bit, I just want to say a big, massive thank you to your participants, the people who've popped your comments up. It's been a great pleasure answering your questions where I've been able to. It's not my channel, it's Citizens. He's going to finish off, but you know where I'm at. Spirit Medium Neil Cook on Facebook. There's the public figure page which is connected to it under the same name. Neil Cook YouTube. If you don't find the paranormal stuff boring, then watch my cooking side of things. And there's also the GSI Paranormal channel as well, and also Twitter under the same name. But before Citizens finish it off, I just want to thank you as well, guys. Each and every one of you, whether you've sat there and just watched it and you're listening or you've participated. And I know from experience, more people tune in after the live stream finish, and you get more hits after your audience is finished than you do from the actual live stream. So for all those who got to this point now and watching it, and it's not 10 o'clock on the 10th of the 2nd, 2021, thank you. Don't forget to leave him a like and a thumbs up for taking the time to watch this. All yours, buddy.
Okay, I was just going to say, it's been a great pleasure having you on here doing an investigation, and thank you for speaking to me and my viewers. Would also like to say thank you for helping them answer their questions.
It's been a great pleasure.
I want to thank everybody for watching, and I want everybody to be blessed, and be positive. And like I always do, I like to finish with my favourite quote, and it is, when one door of happiness closes, another opens, but often we don't look so long at the closed door that we do not see which one has been opened for us. And I'd just like to say good night, everyone.
Yes, good night. And we'll be back again one day soon. This has been awesome. I've really enjoyed myself. So let's do it again sometime soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Good night, guys.